Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were looking at your phone while driving, let me say it again. Seriously, put down your phone. That is so unsafe. If you didn't do stuff like use your phone while driving, you could save money with Progressive Snapshot. But saving or not, just put it down. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't looking at your phone, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Many, Mickey, Fishy.
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
Have to break it to you. I normally record this show pantsless.
And Rich Crage.
My God, just play along with it. It's wrestling, man. Just let yourself go for a minute. And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening?
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Tuesday flagship here this week. Past 2 weeks was a Wednesday. Now we're on a Tuesday. We'll be going head to head with Monday Night Raw here in a little bit at some point. So look out, Paul. All right. Monday Night Football's not the only one coming for you. Imagine a Monday Night flagship. That'd be wild.
Well, Monday Night Football came for them, and it was ugly
it
for
did
Raw.
Not go great for old Paul. Yeah. Unky Paul in the new and improved Raw did not have a good night against...
I guess we should start there because...
Yeah, those are shocking. Those are some pretty big numbers. The biggest news is all the cord cutters quickly ran to their local... well, there's not Radio Shack anymore. I don't know. Where do you go to get a coax cable these days, Joe? Because they found them this week. for professional football, they found the coax cables. And cables were reattached all weekend.
The CBS early window on Sunday was their highest rated or most viewed early window since 1998.
Yes, fucking.
Which sounds like a typo, but isn't.
At first I read that and they're like, they definitely meant 2008. And even 2008 would have still been impressive. You know what I mean? And then I was thinking, oh, they must mean 2018, which that's pretty good still. But like, all right, no, 1998. What?
Yeah, that was for regional coverage in the early window. And then Sunday Night Football did its best number since 2015. And then Monday Night Football last night, which wasn't even a great on-paper game in terms of draws. It was the Broncos at the Seahawks. But, it's week one. And that was one of the biggest Monday Night Football total viewerships across three networks, in many, many years. So, and it took a big chunk out of Raw, which did roundup 1.71 million viewers and a 0.44.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and a disastrous third hour too. That third hour was brutal.
Yeah, the third hour dropped below a 0.4, I think. So, yeah, and this coming off of the heels of Friday when the SmackDown did this shockingly monstrous number. It did 2.3 million viewers, and I think a 0.57. I think I'm not looking at it. So SmackDown really had regressed back to its previous levels the past few weeks. SmackDown wasn't really crushing it anymore the way that Raw still was. Same for NXT. NXT seems to have settled back to where it was, other than when they have like a themed show. Those still pop a little bit of a number. But for the most part, NXT and SmackDown, for all intent and purpose, we're back to previous levels until this past Friday. SmackDown just out of nowhere with the 2.3 million. And, I really thought Raw wouldn't be as affected by Monday Night Football as it was in some previous years. And
it goes back to go listen to our show last year that we did at this time where we first theorized during last year when football was restarting, we were like, uh-oh, here we go. Football's coming for WWE. And then that first week that it didn't have an effect whatsoever. Like Monday Night Football had a monster rating as they usually do. And Monday Night Raw was basically the same. And on that show, we kind of theorized, okay, they now have their core 2 million people, 1.8, whatever, that are just going to watch it no matter what. They are going to watch Raw. They don't care what else is on. They don't care about Monday Night Football. They don't care. Because it used to affect, like this same sort of shocking drop week over week used to happen all the time with previous iterations of Monday Night Football and football. And if you go back and listen to the episode last year, we theorized, okay, they now have the core. They have the audience that does not give a shit about football, doesn't care about current events, doesn't care about the World Series, doesn't care about anything. They are going to watch Monday Night Raw on Mondays. And they had that audience, and that audience stuck through the entire football season last year and kept them pretty much where they were almost the entire time. I mean, there was some little drops and whatnot here and there, but for the most part, it was pretty consistent, shockingly consistent. And that's when we kind of, then we had that theory. Okay, well, that means that we have now reached the core. This is the group that is never going to stop watching Monday Night Raw, probably will always just be there. And I think what we maybe have seen here is a return to that what happened previous years, where maybe the Triple H taking over, the post Vince stuff, the interest level in Raw and the interest level in WWE of, ooh, what are they doing now? Ooh, is there something new? Is there something going on? Those new people started watching, but then the second they were given another option, they're gone again. And those people are now it's going to be interesting to see, were they just like starved for football that week, or are they truly like, well, I gave my Night Raw a try, and it was fine, but yeah, I'm not seeing a ton different. All right, it's football season, and now they're football.
A much deeper drop this year than the previous year. Last year, the week before, football did 1.85 million and a 0.52, and the first week of Monday Night Football did 1.67 million and a 0.43. This year, last week, they did 2.05 million and a 0.58. And now this week they did a 1.71 million and a 0.44. So they started higher. It was higher this year, the week before, but dropped to essentially the same demo as last year.
Right,
so
right. So that core is still there.
The drop was steeper this year, percentage-wise, in both total viewership and the demo. And, my hot take before the Raw number came out today, and I guess it's going to end up circling back to the same basic point that you just made. My hot take was going to be, they're still getting this bump from the curiosity of Vince being gone and Triple H being in, and Triple H making all of these small changes to the show, and it's still working to some degree, but my feeling is the shows are so boring. They're competent, but they're boring is really what they are. They're better than the Vince shows without question. They're more competent than the Vince shows, but they really are very boring shows, both Raw and SmackDown. And my theory on today's show was going to be that I think Paul Levesque is kind of playing with fire, where if he doesn't start to grab these people with some big compelling storyline, or bringing back truly big stars, as opposed to this, parade of mid-carders that they've brought back, which are nice little, fan service type moves. But at the end of the day, Ashante the Adonis and Karrion Kross and people like this aren't going to make that much. Now you bring back Sasha Banks or a Bray Wyatt or something like that. Those are much bigger moves. I feel like they were in danger of squandering this growth in viewership with this curiosity around the changes by not grabbing people and keeping them, and we'd slowly see it dwindle away. But now with this Monday Night Raw number from last night, it's like you're saying, for the first time in a number of years, I think we've seen sort of that old school drop in viewership that we used to see when Raw was doing, 4 to 5 million viewers a week, and they would gulp and hold their breath because they knew football was coming. The past few years, they were really down. We talk about this all the time. They've been down to that core 2 million or so people. They're going to watch no matter what. WWE is their top priority, which is why I don't think the football drops were as steep as they had been in the past.
Right.
Because this is what you were just saying. They were down to the core 2 million where WWE is their number one. And I think what we just saw happen last night was we saw a more precipitous drop because they weren't able to hold all of these viewers who had, the couple 100,000 viewers who have returned because the show is competent now. And it's not the total horse shit that Vince McMahon was producing in his final couple of years. He had clearly completely lost the plot and was producing some of the worst wrestling television in the history of televised wrestling. You want to compare it to late stage WCW. You want to compare it to some eras of TNA and Impact that were poor. Recent vintage Vince WWE was right there with some of those horrible examples of wrestling television.
Right. And we were saying it at the time too. There were a lot of people that were head was directly in the sand for, there's some stuff that's good and some stuff that's bad. We were telling you for 2-3 years, this is utter shit. What is going on? And it dates back really to, I think 2019 is when it really, really fell off the table. It wasn't just COVID. The COVID thing obviously did not help at all, but it certainly accelerated it, but it was 2019 when it was really starting to fall off, and maybe late 2018 where it was like, what in the world is going on here? And he had completely lost it. And it's not that he was booking tremendous television for the years prior to that, but there at least was silver lining to some stuff. The pay-per-views were still decent, the matches were still okay, things were, and if you listen to this show, we told you from jump, this shit's getting really bad, like horrifically terrible. What's going on here, and we're more than willing to call it out over the last couple of years that this is some of the dirt worst shit that's ever been produced on wrestling television ever. And now people are kind of catching up now that, okay, we can finally put the Vince McMahon thing to bed, and it was, but now it's improving, and now it's, okay, well, we were telling everybody it sucked shit, and we had done shit, no, it's all right, it's okay, it was horrific stuff. I used to say, you can line it up with some of the worst pro wrestling ever, and it is right there. Stuff would happen, and I made this reference many times. I made this all the way back in 2019. I said, there's an entire podcast series devoted to laughing at 2000 WCW, and there's more bad stuff happening in a month of WWE than happened during the entire year of 2000 WCW, but people just refused to say it or do it because it was still like, they had to toe the line or whatever, but now they can not toe the line. And now you're hearing, Vince, he really started to lose the fastball, and now it wasn't quite there, but now this new and improved, and it's kind of funny how the wormers kind of turned on that. But I did notice you're starting to hear a little less about Raw and SmackDown. The appointment television that it felt like it was immediately when Paul Levesque took over, it's right down to the same people talking about it that were talking about it before anyway. My friends, friends that were watching it are not, like, I had a few friends that were texting me every single week, hey, this is pretty cool, hey, it's kind of interesting, there's some new stuff that they're doing. I'm like, okay, and they're done, they watch football on Monday. They had no time for Raw or SmackDown or whatever.
Well, I think a lot of those people are, just look at the numbers. I think what we saw here today was all those people they gained, okay, immediately dropped it for football last night.
Right.
Because last year's, they only did they did about between 30 and 40,000 more total viewers this year than they did last year versus football, which is nothing. 1.67 million to 1.709 million. Right. So they basically are right back to the same total audience they had last year at this time. And they started this year over 2 million last week and only 1.85 million last year, the week before football. So they actually lost more total viewers, lost more by percentage, and lost more in the demo by percentage. And they're right back to the number they started with last week, week one during football, which tells you they have not. They had what, 6 weeks? How long has it been since SummerSlam? 6-7 weeks or something?
Yeah, somewhere
like
around there. Yeah, 6-7. I forget the exact number. But
they've had 6 or 7 weeks to recapture these people and keep them. And before football started, and that didn't happen, at least this week. Now, next week, there's 2 Monday Night Football games, and they overlap. Usually they do the Monday Night Football doubleheader week 1. I think what happened this week is the NFL said, now, wait a minute. Week 1, we know we're going to do a monster number. Why are we doing the doubleheader on week 1? We should do the doubleheader week 2.
That's smart. Yeah, that's really smart.
I don't know why no one thought of this until this year, right? Like, it makes total sense when you look at it that way, because week one's always going to crush it. I mean, Seattle's not expected to be a good team, and Denver, Seattle aren't two extraordinary television markets, and they crushed it. So they're going to do the double header next week, and it's going to completely overlap Raw. And I mean, we'll see, but here's what I'd be worried about in the room. Okay, if I'm WWE, that these viewers are going to stick with football now for the next 4 months. And then because the product wasn't compelling enough to keep them, the habit's going to be broken again and they're not going to come back.
Right. And that's all what it always is. I mean, and listen to anybody that has done any TV. It's not just wrestling. It's and it applies to sports too, is that once you get people out of that habit where they don't sit on their couch Monday at X time and watch Monday Night Raw or watch whatever your drama show is or whatever your comedy is or whatever, the second you get them out of that habit and they skip a week or they feel that a week is unessential or that they don't need to see it, you've kind of lost that. You've broken that habit that they've had, and that habit is what is so valuable. That habit is what the television shows rely on. It's what Raw relies on. It's what wrestling TV shows rely on, is that every Monday and every Wednesday and every Friday, X amount of people, roughly the 1.5 to 2 million people will sit down and say, all right, wrestling, let's go. This is what I'm watching tonight. And once you get people out of that habit, that is a very dangerous thing to do, especially if they're out of that habit for 4 months. It's very hard to get them to say, all right, football's done, clap. All right, let's do this. Monday Night Raw, let's do it again. Like, you got to hook them again. There's got to be a reason. There's got to be. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago, is okay. Yeah. New and improved WWE, you bring back Dexter Lumis, you bring back Karrion Kross, you bring back Io Sky, you bring back Dakota Kai. Okay, cool. You need a little. I mean, those are cool for a little, like, hey, yeah, like you said, fan service is probably the perfect way to do it. So a bunch of fans are going to go, whoa, Io Sky's back. Awesome. Hey, Dakota Kai, that's a good get. But those people aren't movers. Those aren't movers and shakers. Those people aren't going to do anything. Nobody is going to stick around on this show because Dakota Kai's back. That's no offense to Dakota Kai. I think she's tremendous. But your lapsed viewer, your out of the habit viewer is not going to say, whoa, Dakota Kai's on Raw now? I'm in. You know what I mean? Or, oh, wow, Dakota Kai's back? I'm in. Dexter Lumis is here? I'm in. Like, that. Those aren't those. They don't move the needle like that. The problem is, do they have that person that moves the needle? And
they Sasha. Could be. Yes, they could have Sasha Banks and Bray Wyatt in the holster waiting for football. That could have been their plan all along, which would be smart if it was.
But I would have done that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, or advertise them for this week.
Right. I think you maybe have already lost those people, and I don't know.
Right,
like,
that's what I mean. I mean,
They were gift wrapped 6 or 7 weeks of
curiosity.
Do what I mean? Fucking. We talked about it that week after. We talked the week when he took over. We talked about it. And we said, well, I cannot believe that they just did a normal Monday Night Raw and didn't just
before SummerSlam.
Right, and didn't open up with Triple H in the middle of the ring saying a new era of wrestling. You know what I mean? And just bang, boom, boom, boom. The first match is like a 20-minute awesome back, and just make it look different and sound different and feel different and be different. They didn't do it. They fucked up on that first week, but that's okay. They came back then that week after SummerSlam and said, okay, now we're going to really do, something new, something different.
Here's all the returns. Here's
right. But it wasn't different enough, though. It was kind of,
Exactly. That's been my point these last several weeks.
And they had to do such little stuff. Different camera cuts. Make the arena look a little bit different. Do it.
They've made a lot of little changes.
Yeah.
But I've been coming on this show every week, and people are saying, well, I'm just being stubborn. No, I'm watching these shows. They've made a lot of little changes, but I've been warning people that they're not doing anything big to grab people and grip them. And the shows are kind of dull. They're kind of dull. I mean, do you expect to bounce back from this week's head-to-head with Monday Night Football going against 2 games next week because Dom Mysterio cut a promo? I mean,
Dexter Lumis is invading someone's house. Like,
yeah, like what are the big these aren't they're not. And Roman Reigns isn't around. He's a part timer.
I'm starting to wonder if maybe ruining all your star power for one guy who then is not around all that much. I'm going to say that's not a great idea. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I wouldn't have done it that way. But
I mean, I don't know. I guess they feel when he is around that he makes a big difference. Maybe they have some internal numbers to tell them that. I don't know. I mean, but I would be fearful now that in the next 4 months, people are just going to forget about, because then the novelty of Paul Levesque being in charge is going to be long worn out by then. And I don't know. I think, but it's weird because SmackDown just did that monster number on Friday. I think what we're going to see here is SmackDown is going to leapfrog Raw again.
Yeah.
And be the clear-cut number one show for a while in terms of viewership. And Raw I was shocked today. I thought it was going to hold up much better against the football. It felt like they had some momentum, but to me, this is a clear red flag that Raw just hasn't been all that compelling. I mean, they are right back where they started last year. I mean, if you want to go crazy about 35,000 viewers or whatever, be my guest. I mean, it's like margin of error. Who cares? I mean, that's nothing. They essentially did the same exact number they did last year going up against football.
Yeah, which is not, I mean, that's bad. I mean, given where they were in 2021 in the doldrums and we're still ravaged a little bit with COVID in the country or whatnot. And there was still that aura of it's just not very good, and they were gift wrapped all the attention in the world, and somehow in a way positive attention for the current product, and given all this stuff and gift wrapped this, and just they had these 6-7 weeks to really knock it out of the park and let people know, okay, this is new, this is different, this is straight. And but again, we talked about this when it happened. Is there that much incentive for Triple H and Paul Levesque and Nick Khan and all the WWE heads to shake everything up and go crazy and produce different than what they've been producing? We said, like, maybe they're just going to say, this is a gravy train. Why are we going to, we're not going to upset this apple cart. Are you kidding me? Like, this is going great. Like, we're going to make a shit ton of money. We are making a shit ton of money. And then in a couple years, we're going to make even more shit ton of money. Do we really need to say, all right, fuck it, we're going back to studio wrestling and we're doing this and we're doing that? Like, it's probably more advantageous just to put your feet up on the desk and go, we're good. 1.8, we're good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on the flip side, the football game did do 20 million viewers, and the Emmys were also on last night. Now, the Emmys did their worst number in something like
I had
ever, I think.
Zero idea the Emmys were on.
I think the Emmys did their I saw an article. I'm not looking at
Emmys.
it.
Oh, man. Wow.
Don't quote me, but I think the Emmys did their worst number in history. But either way, they did a poor number is the bottom line. But I'm sure that had a minimal effect as well. So, but you do have to mention it. And 20 million is a lot for a Monday. I mean, that's almost what the playoff game did last year. Remember, they did a wild card game on Monday night.
Right.
And that did around the same. So, I mean, this was a monster week. So we'll see next week. But next week doesn't get any easier because they're doing the double header. So, we'll see. But a very, very interesting ratings week between SmackDown and Raw. Both numbers shocked me. The SmackDown number is inexplicable and makes no sense. They didn't even really announce anything for SmackDown. It was one of those shows that came together during the show. I think it was Drew McIntyre and Solo Sikoa in the main, and it wasn't announced ahead of time, and they really didn't announce much ahead of time for SmackDown. It did 2.3 million out of nowhere. I mean, it just makes no sense. You can't make any sense of it. And I really thought Raw would hold up a lot better than it did against what didn't seem like on paper. Imagine if this were a strong, this football game could have done 22, 23 million if it was big market teams. I mean, they kind of lucked out in the sense that they got Broncos Seahawks, with the Seahawks projected to win 5 or 6 games with Geno Smith at quarterback instead of, the usual, week one, juggernaut game that you might expect to get. But because it could have been worse than this. But I still contend that the shows are pretty dull, and it's a problem. They're not. You watch the shows, and they are competent, but there's a lot of silliness and goofiness seeping back in too. I mean, the Karrion Kross stuff where they try to make it look like the viewer
dream sequence.
That's awful stuff. It's terrible. The Dexter Loomis stuff is just awful. NXT style silliness. It's just goofy.
Dom Mysterio doing the faded backstage darkness promos.
The fact that they're pushing Dominic Mysterio is
right. Look at the 3 names we just brought up there. The names that the prominent names on WWE television this week were Karrion Kross, Dexter Loomis, and Dom Mysterio. That's not good.
You're the market leader. You have more money than you know what to do with. You have this on paper this deep roster, and we're pushing Dominic Mysterio. I mean, What are we doing here? He shouldn't even be in the company. Like, you're pushing him. Guys, no charisma. This isn't going to work any better as a heel it can't be any worse than he was as a face. But, to me, the shows have no juice. They're just, when you watch them, they're just dull. They're dull, but it's like those periods of Impact where it's just competent wrestling, but the show is just dull.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you really have no desire you're never like, oh man, I can't wait for
when
next
you watch
week.
it, you're like, all right, that was fine. And then, but you're not like, all right, next week, let's see what's up. Like that, we get that, when we start doing our Impact previews or whatever, and I'll go and I'll binge like 3 weeks of Impact, and it's fucking torturous. And it's not because they're bad. It's just like, I'm just kind of bored. I just want to do something else afterwards. I'm like, all right, that episode's done. God, I wish I didn't have to watch another one now. And it's not because they're bad. It's just, it's like, all right, well, here we go. Here's another one. It's
Rich,
just,
I know you haven't really been watching, but that's how Raw and SmackDown have been for me. To the point where I don't really watch. I'm back to not watching. I'm back to they're collecting on my DVR, and then I'm like, shit, there's 3 or 4 of them. I better zip through them or I'm never going to catch up. Like, that's where I'm at again, which is where I was when Vince was in charge, because the shows are just dull and uncompelling, and I have no desire to watch them. I'm not thinking about Raw or SmackDown on Monday or Friday, rubbing my hands together like, all right, let's settle in for some wrestling.
Right,
no.
Putting the popcorn in the microwave. Let's get going here. We got wrestling on.
Yeah. On Wednesdays, I'm watching the clock. I'm like, oh, it's 6:48. I better, it's like, it's a whole different thing. It's because Dynamite feels like a wrestling show. Raw and SmackDown. Yeah, it feels like a wrestling show. Raw and SmackDown feel like a stage production putting on a wrestling show. It just, that inauthentic feel. It's a television show about a wrestling show.
It's a television show about, I forget who coined that, but that is a genius. It's a television show about a wrestling show.
It's a show about a wrestling show. That makes sense if you break that down slowly.
It takes a while, but think about it. Chew on it, stew on it, maybe sleep on it, and then tomorrow you'll wake up tonight in a cold sweat at 3 a.m. and go, God damn it, they're right. Like, I get it. I understand what it means.
It is a show about a wrestling show.
Right.
And see, that's what hasn't changed with Levesque in charge. Okay? He's changed some of the wallpaper in the house. Okay? They've gotten rid of the worst humor, and the booking makes slightly better sense. And the ring, there are slightly longer matches, and the matches are a little bit better. And he is trying his best to make the secondary titles meaningful with the video packages and not being afraid to mention the names of wrestlers who aren't there anymore or legends from the past, where Vince was terrified. Like, you couldn't say the name of a former, you couldn't say the name Harley Race on TV because God forbid someone doesn't know who Harley Race is. All that garbage is gone. They're giving people their first and last names back. The little changes are there, but the core show, the production, which I hate WWE's production. I think the most overrated aspect of WWE is their production. People fawn over their great production. I hate that
shit too, and I'm somebody who has a production background.
I think their production's flat out terrible.
Yeah, well, I just think it's overproduced. It's overproduced. It's so quote unquote good that it's bad because it's like fucking it's you're in this. It looks like a network television. It looks like one of those dumb network television game shows. You know what I mean? Like the ones I'm talking about, like The Masked Singer or America's Got Talent or The Voice or whatever, where you're like, what is going on here?
So many colors.
Yeah, there's colors, there's lights, there's explosions, everyone's yelling, everybody's screaming, and I'm like, what is this? Like, this is supposed to be a simulated sport. Like, just, we don't need all this stuff. Like,
it's sensory overload.
Yeah.
Their production is so overrated. Everybody looks fake. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, look, it's not a wrestling product that appeals to me at all, is the bottom line. But even setting that aside, I just don't think these shows have been compelling. And it's possible that some of maybe the recent lapsed viewers that they've picked up feel the same because they clearly chose football last night. did we talk about the Trevor Dame theory last week? I think we did. I'll refresh. I'll do it again. How about we do it again?
Yeah, we'll give Trevor some more roses here that he needs anymore. Come on.
So the Trevor Dame theory is the viewers that have come back out of curiosity to see the Triple H-driven WWE are not the longtime lapsed viewers that they lost when they were peaking at 5 million viewers a week or whatever a few years ago. It's the people they lost over the last 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, no. I think he's right on the money, and I can definitely. I don't know if we talked about that last week, but no, I and just anecdotally talking about my friend group and people that I know that I'm close to. That's exactly what it is. The people that have been texting me about watching it again are the people that were up until 2-3 years ago still watching every single week. My friends that I grew up with, Attitude Era, they don't give a shit, man. They're watching football. They have kids. They're long gone. Those people are absolutely long gone, never coming back. Never, don't even feign an interest in coming back. The people that I have been texting back and forth with that were reaching out to me and doing that is exactly like Trevor said. People that 3 years ago said, I'm not watching this shit anymore. 2 years ago, I'm getting bored of this. I'm not watching anymore. It was all those people. And that losing those people again is tough. That's not good.
Yeah, and I mean, and look, and they could trickle back in. We'll have to see what happens next week.
Yeah, next week's gonna be fascinating. Yeah, maybe next week might be tough because, like you said, that
doubleheader,
right.
And the two games. The problem is, it's not like the games aren't stacked either. The games overlap by like an hour, and overall, I think the entirety of Raw is covered by both games. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's going to be a point where there's 2 football games and Raw on all at the same time. So they're not competing just with 1 football game. They'll be competing with 2 football games. Let me see. Let me check that schedule again.
Yeah, who's playing too?
Let's see. So, let's go week 2 here. All right, so next week.
Very Francesa moment here, but go on, take your time.
It's all right.
Kind of a melter. Kind of a melter. Yeah, why don't you ruffle? You got some papers there you can rustle?
All right, so we've got Tennessee and Buffalo at 7:15 Eastern on ESPN, and then at 8:30 Eastern on ABC. Is the Vikings and the Eagles. Philly's a strong market.
Yeah, that's a strong market.
Buffalo is the Super Bowl favorite.
And everybody in Buffalo will be watching that game if they're not at the game. Is it in Buffalo?
It's in Buffalo. Did you see the number the Buffalo Rams game did in Buffalo?
No,
did you see that?
I didn't see it.
It did like a 65 share or something.
It's like the Dallas. It's like the Dallas Who Shot JR episode. Like everybody in Buffalo was watching it. I could buy it. I've been to Buffalo. I know people from Buffalo, and I could absolutely buy it. That they were that way with the Bills when they fucking stunk. Let alone when they're a Super Bowl favorite. So yeah, I could see it for sure.
So the first game kicks off 7:15 Eastern. So 45 minutes. Right, Raw starts at 8 on the East Coast, right? Yeah.
Right.
So 45 minutes before Raw kicks off. The second game kicks off at 8:30. Oh, yeah, that second game is going to end well after Raw. So Raw...
Yeah, they have no free time.
A football game starts before Raw, and a football game will end after Raw is off the air. The entire 3 hours is covered in its entirety by these 2 football games. And they're both decent games. I mean, Minnesota, Philly's that's as strong a game you're going to get on a Monday night in the modern era, because all the marquee games go to Sunday Night Football now. Sports fans know that, but a lot of our listeners aren't sports fans. So the last 15 years ago or whatever, when they made that change, Monday Night Football used to be the marquee game of the week. Now it's Sunday Night Football. So Minnesota Philly is a really strong game by Monday Night Football standards. And Buffalo, of course, is everybody's trendy pick to win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, it won't be easy next week. If you want to take week 3, will that be the true judge? Oh, they're going up against the Dallas Cowboys, Rich. Dallas at Giants. Dallas at Giants.
So you got Dallas and the New York Giants. Yeah, that's not great.
Now, no Dak Prescott, but
it's still the Cowboys, man. It's
still the Cowboys. They're still. I think the top 10 rated regular season football games last year, 5 of them were Cowboy games, just to give you an idea. So week 4, Rams at 49ers. Doesn't get any easier. Week 5, Raiders at Chiefs. I don't know. This Monday night schedule's pretty strong.
It looks like NFL knew what they were doing and scheduled some big games on Mondays. It's weird.
Roger Goodell, big AEW fan.
Maybe Shad. Did he sit down in those meetings? That's where we can get real. Is he possibly in these scheduled meetings? I mean, as an owner, he probably has privy to some of this, right?
It's true. I mean, Shad and Tony are on all kinds of committees and shit.
Yeah. I'm guessing he did not want his Jaguars on a Monday night at all. He's like, no.
He would want to
no, really, no. I couldn't. No, please. Like, give it to Buffalo. Let Buffalo have it. We don't.
To Jerry Jones. Give him.
Yeah, right.
Jerry.
Here's another. You have it.
Yeah, we love you, Jerry.
Right.
So anyway, impromptu topic.
Have the Jaguars ever played on Monday night? I'm trying to like.
Well, every team has to have a national TV game, and I think
but they can give a Thursday game.
The rules have changed a lot over the years with the new packages. I know that it used to be every team has to have at least one nationally televised game, and I think that's still the case. But I think now every team has to have at least one Thursday night game, which is why you get some sketchy matchups on Thursdays. That's going to be the Amazon package this year.
Yeah. So StatMuse tells me they've had quite a few, by the way. So
every team is on national TV and on Monday.
They've had some gaps, though. I'll say they had some gaps. 97, they got on there. 98, 2 games. 99, 2 games.
Who are you talking about, the Jaguars?
The Jaguars, yes.
Yeah.
2 games on the 2000. 1 game in 2001. Then they had a big old 5-year gap, which, it was pretty. Then 2006, 2007, 2008, they got back in. But they have not had one, Joe, at least if this is updated. They have not had one.
I guarantee 2017 they had a couple because they went to the AFC Championship game the year before.
Then StatMuse is wrong. They have 2011 as the last Monday Night Football.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. I'm sure it's right.
December 5th, 2011, Jacksonville Jaguars versus San Diego Chargers. That's a bad game, but that is it. Yeah, so they've 8-7 on Mondays all time, but I have not had a game since 2011 on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, so schedule looks pretty hard the first month or so for Raw. There's no dog game in there. I mean, the dog game was this week, honestly, but it was week 1, so people were going to watch regardless.
We're being told in the Dodo chat room that the befuddled Jaguars gif, the famous Jaguars gif, is from Monday night. So, a Monday Night Football game. So, at least one memorable Jacksonville Jaguars Monday Night Football game. So, that's a great gif. An all-time great gif, by the way.
So, Rich, I undersold that share in Buffalo. They did a 76 share. Oh. So, for people who don't know what that means, the share is the percentage of televisions turned on. What the share is the percentage of televisions that are turned on, that are tuned into that. So 76% of the televisions in Buffalo that were in use were watching the Buffalo Rams game on Thursday.
Just think about that too. Like, think about like that percentage of people watching that, and that's people don't. There are people who don't like sports. There are people who don't like football. There are people who are fans of other teams or whatever. That does exist, but in Buffalo it barely exists. Like that's remarkable. That is an insane number. That share. Whoa, yeah. My God.
Yeah, I mean,
not a whole lot else to do in Buffalo, so I get it.
Yeah, it's percentage of
apologies to Dan Garcia.
Percentage of households or viewers that are actually watching TV at that time. So I got it right. I always get share, but yeah, that's what the share is. That's it's insanity. That's Super Bowl level share number. So yeah, anyway, so impromptu topic, the WWE ratings, but we got a lot. We're really sprayed all field shows that we have today.
Yeah, we got everything, man. I'm gonna briefly touch on the El Desperado Jun Kasai match that happened this week. You have not seen it yet.
Did you watch it or no?
I did watch it, yeah. So I'm not gonna spoil too much of it. I'll kind of just because I know you have not seen it yet.
You can spoil it. I don't care.
Oh, I'll talk about it a little bit, but it's getting. Some people are giving it match of the year buzz, and I know you and I both like to. Anytime a match gets that sort of buzz, we want to make sure that we have at least seen it, and so I know you mentioned maybe wanting to do a review of it, a written review on flagshippatreon.com. So I'll give you some of the nuts and bolts of it, and then I'll obviously you can watch it on your own time and see, but it's obviously worth your time. I can definitely say that, but we'll talk about it more at length later in the show. We got New Japan Pro Wrestling. We'll talk about the New Japan Strong. A little bit of risky business here, bringing in Chris Dickinson. So we'll talk about that, how they've handled that so far. They're also back to cheering crowds in New Japan, so a good time to jump back into New Japan if you've been away for a bit. The world of MLW never stopping, as it does not stop again this week. We have plenty to talk about in the world of MLW. Two departures from the company, as well as a brand new partnership, a strategic partnership, Joe, between MLW and a company that I have never heard about. But there's a juicy quote in there that I think we have to touch on and talk about in a bit. So we'll get to that when we get to it. Keiji Muto, final match. He's selling some tickets. He is selling some tickets for these things, and not the cheap seats. He is selling the big money tickets. We'll talk about what's been going on with that.
Well, I've got some scoops.
Oh, you got some scoopers. All right.
I've got the reason for those high tickets, and anyway, we'll get to it when
the
we
reason
get to the
why
top.
they're expensive, or the reason why they're selling.
No, the reason why they're so exorbitantly priced.
Okay.
So
okay,
I got a lot of scoops on that show, and also the All Japan 50th anniversary that we're going to talk about as well. I've got some scoops
perfectly bring
on
that up too. All Japan 50th anniversary coming up this weekend, so we'll touch on that show. And they're also having a show the very next night as well that could have some huge ramifications for the future of All Japan. So we'll talk about that. We also have CMLL, Joe. When is the last time we have talked about CMLL other than say, oh my God, is CMLL going to die? What are they doing during COVID? Oh, they're doing nothing during COVID. They're back, and they're back in a big way. They had a big time show at Arena Mexico on the 19th, and then they have their 89th anniversary show coming up this weekend as well. So we'll touch on that. CMLL have been forever since we talked. We touched on a little bit of AAA over the last couple of years, but I cannot even think of the last time we sat down and did like a 30-minute discussion about CMLL.
No, we do all the AAA pay-per-views. As far as CMLL, we probably haven't talked about CMLL at all since pre-pandemic. And even then, I think it was probably one of the anniversary shows. But I legitimately watched more CMLL over the last 2 days than I've watched in the last probably 2 or 3 years combined, because their COVID era shows were the most depressing of any of the COVID era shows for any other company. I mean, those empty Arena Mexico show. I mean, I reviewed some of those matches behind the paywall, some of the ones that were hyped, but the atmosphere was so dire. And I really think, we always talk about how COVID did a number on New Japan. I thought it hurt CMLL more than any other company in the world, other than the companies that folded.
Yes. Oh, and that was honestly, we had discussions with Cubs fan and luchablog.com about, CMLL during the pandemic. And I don't know if he actually uttered those words officially in writing or whatever, but he said, this is as close as I think they've come to just shutting down. You know what I mean? Like, it felt so dire. They weren't running shows. They weren't making any money. When they were running shows, it was the worst atmosphere you've ever seen. The guys were not trying. Nobody was caring. Guys were getting COVID and dying. It just felt like the worst. It was just like, oh my God, what is this company doing? And will it survive? Will it see its 89th anniversary? Will it see its 88th birthday? And it has, and it's come back in a pretty big way too. So we're going to touch on CMLL.
And I watched so much of it. And and we're going to do an extended CMLL segment because I have a lot to say about all of the stuff that I watched and the anniversary show. So I'm going to make up for some lost time and do a lot of CMLL today.
Yeah, 3 hours. So we're going to touch on immediately. We're going to hit these other topics real quick, and then the last hour or last 2 hours will be complete CMLL. No, maybe not, but I think we'll get an hour. I think we're going to get an hour on CMLL for sure. So
good, it's possible.
Yeah, I want to carve that out. So I'm going to go a little bit quicker with some of these other ones. But let's get to this topic at hand here. It is related to the Young Bucks. So last week, obviously with CM Bucks outburst and suspension, his future and what's going to happen, that was top of mind and dominating the headlines, and that's fine. And that was, he was the main story last week. We touched on it a lot last week about what how we got here, why this happened, all this sort of stuff. This week, slowly but surely, as Punk's kind of retreated into wherever he is and whatever he's going to do and whatever his future is going to be, he's gotten surgery and now he's just kind of gone and done, and there's an understanding that this guy's not going to be around for a while, and we don't really have to think about him for a while, and who knows what's going to happen next with him. The Young Bucks have kind of creeped back up into the news here, and they yesterday tweeted from their Being the Elite Twitter account, that there would be no new episode of their web series this week. Quote, no Being the Elite this week, on hiatus until further notice. And that was it for that. So, Joe, do you want to react to that, or you want to do the whole thing and then kind of circle back to all this stuff?
No, and then the rest of it with the feelers talk.
Yeah, then there were reports that the Young Bucks had sent feelers to WWE, which, essentially is, hey, do you want us, if our contracts are up and we call you guys, do you want us to come there? And, people, and bandied that about of, they've sent feelers, yada, yada, yada. Fightful, unable to confirm anything about that exactly, or what it entails or whatnot, while Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, flat out denied the situation. Said that Matt and Nick said that they denied that situation entirely. So you got the Bucks doing their thing.
So let's attack that first.
Well, I did want to bring this up too. While all this is going on, Kenny Omega is hanging out at Sega's offices in Japan. So
of course.
So it's like CM Punk. What's this? The investigation. What's he going to do? Is he going to sue somebody? The Young Bucks are cryptically tweeting and all this sort of stuff. And Kenny Omega's like hanging out with a Sonic plush toy. So it's like,
well, if he's suspended and he's not being asked to come to work, he could do whatever the fuck he wants. So
yeah. What is interesting though is Tokyo Game Show is this week, and AEW's got a game that they're going to show off at that Tokyo Game Show. So I don't know. It's interesting that he's in Japan for that. So I don't know. Related or not? Ask questions. I don't know.
Well, of course it is, right?
Or he's just could. If there was any place in the world that man would go when he had free time, it's there. So it's fucking around by the Sega's offices. So.
Well, Chris Daniels is in Japan too, right? And he's suspended because isn't he there for the All Japan show?
All Japan show, yeah.
And so, I'm sure Kenny will.
Let me confirm that the Tokyo Game Show is indeed this weekend, just so I'm not. I thought, Thursday, September 15th through Sunday, September 18th, and I believe AEW is supposed to have a booth or a presence there. So Fight Forever will be featured at the Tokyo Game Show. Yeah. So.
Well, let's get through this Young Bucks feelers thing, and then we could talk about all the latest rumors and gossip with the AEW stuff that's happened since we last did a flagship. I was going to say last week, but I feel like we did a flagship like 2 days ago.
It's like 4 days ago at this point, yeah. So.
But look, I never thought this story was a big deal either way, whether they had sent feelers to WWE or not. They've got another full year on their deals. First of all, they're not free agents until I believe January of 2024 or somewhere thereabouts. So it doesn't really, and as we see, a year and 3 months may as well be 47 years in wrestling years. So much can change between then and now. The other thing is, I would be very surprised if wrestlers on both sides weren't constantly sending feelers to the other side to gauge interest and see. I don't know why this. Okay, I shouldn't say I don't know why this became a story. I get why it becomes a story, but to me, it's not a story. Whether they deny it, but whatever. Whether they've been on the phone with Paul Levesque or not, I don't think it's a big deal. That's just what you do. In a situation where there's two major league companies and you're going to work them against each other and get the best deal possible, calling up your friends and whispering to the other side to see, hey, are they talking about me? That just seems like the prudent thing to do, especially if you're not entirely happy in your company and you have this guy that you see as an interloper, meaning CM Punk and maybe it's time to finally explore that other option. The Elite almost all signed there anyway.
I was going to say, they've already done that. They already explored that option and almost did it before Tony said, no, hold on. I got something here. Don't do that. Got something.
So I think this whole story is just, to me, it's not a story. At least.
Well, here's how I take it. And we touched on this when AEW started. Go back and listen to our episodes when AEW started. We said that this is going to usher in this era of wrestling where every wrestler should always be trying to see what they can get from the other side. Even if you want to stay, even if you have zero intentions of ever going to WWE, you gotta at least call and say, hey, make me an offer. Hey, what do you guys think? It's just, it's fiscally irresponsible not to do that. That is what you do. You leverage the fact that there's another Major League Pro Wrestling company that has money out there. And hell, maybe you get an offer you can't refuse and go, well, all right, screw it then. I'll take that offer. Or you take that offer that they gave you and said, hey, here's what they're offering me, or can you match this, or do better, or give me some. That's just how this works. That's just how a healthy pro wrestling ecosystem works. And that a lot of people, again, we say people are shocked by this because they didn't. There's a lot of new fans that didn't live through WCW, that didn't live through WWF actually having competition in the marketplace, and actually there being another major league company, and actually having a major player to go. Impact was never that. Guys would go to Impact. Christian went to Impact. Guys would go to Impact, but it never was that true leverage buster that you could say, hey, look, Impact's going to give me this, so you guys, you got to counteract with this or whatever. It was there to always kind of be that fallback that you could go to, and that's good, and it played a part in that ecosystem, but there's never been, since WCW went away, and really the last 2 years of WCW pretty much irrelevant, pretty much 1999 is the last time that there was truly a place that you could say, hey, look, I'm maybe going to leave my company, do you guys have something that you can offer to me? And you take that. You always have to have that conversation. You always have to send those feelers out, and it's fiscally irresponsible not to do that. So I'm more shocked that the Young Bucks wouldn't do that. I'm more shocked. Everybody should do that. Every single wrestler that has a contract up in the next year should ask their friend to ask their friend to ask their friend if they're going to be interested in them, and that if that's worth making a call to. That's just what you do. That is how business is done. So to me, it's a complete non-story, an absolute zero non-story. So I get why people brought it up. I get why people freaked out. I get why people are doing that, because that's what the world that we live in now. But they should send feelers out. Everybody should send feelers out. Kenny Omega should be doing the same thing right now.
And a lot of people may not even understand what sending feelers means. It means just trying to gauge interest from the other side, or making it known to the other side that you're open for business.
Right. Hey, my contract's up in a year. Let them know my contract's up in a year, and we consider a move. And that could be from a text to a friend, to sit in a room and kind of nudge, Paul on the shoulder and say, hey, what about the Bucks? What do you think about the Young Bucks? Just to kind of get, just something as basic as that. It's not the Young Bucks flying to Titan Towers and sitting in a meeting room with Paul. It's not that. It could be as simple as...
people listening probably do this in their everyday life. I know in my line of work, I would get phone calls or texts now and then from people who I worked with or worked for or who worked under me, and it'd be like, hey, how are things going over there? And I know right where this kind of call is going,
right.
And it's like, hey, is Dan looking for a store manager, or is Ralph looking for an area supervisor? And that's sending out feelers. That's, getting in touch with an ally and seeing what's going on, because, whatever their job situation isn't great, or they're looking to make a change or a move, or they're unhappy with where they are. So, that's essentially what it is. And I think that, maybe that term is something people don't understand or whatever, but the Young Bucks, obviously, and not just the Young Bucks, but all of these wrestlers have friends in the opposite company. And of course they're going to talk to these people, and, it's like any other job where if things aren't going well and you're feeling shitty about it, and it's like, you know what? Fuck these guys. Let me dip my toes and see if there would be some interest from the other side. I just do not think it's a big deal. I think it probably happens way more than, I think it might surprise some people how often that those kinds of conversations happen. So either because they're legitimately interested in possibly making a move, or just because, you want to increase your leverage. There's a million different reasons. I don't know. I think whether they did or they didn't really, I'm with you. I think, to me, it's not really much of a story, and I don't think to the type of people who listen to this show, they would think of it as much of a story. Do you want to get to some rumors and conjecture and blow up Reddit now? Do you want to do
sure.
that?
If you got them, if you got some rumors and conjecture, let's go. Yeah, knock yourself out.
Well, there's I was having a conversation earlier this week with somebody who is very tuned in to AEW and knows a lot of people inside the company, and someone who maybe one of the top, easily 2 or 3 people I would trust in this business to not lead me astray with information or anything like that. A very trustworthy person. I'll text you the name while we're doing the segment.
All right.
And there's a belief among some that CM Punk is an employee of AEW, not just a contracted independent contractor / wrestler, and that might be what's complicating the investigation and all of this, because that changes the entire game.
Yeah.
If he's an actual employee and holds some sort of position in addition to being a talent, and that was part of his deal and part of the enticement to come into the company to begin with. And Punk would have the kind of leverage to demand that sort of thing, and everything that comes with being an employee, which could be anything from profit share to health insurance to retirement plans to anything. It would make a lot of sense. Now, what was interesting is as I was having this conversation, I was thinking back to the presser, and Punk had a really weird line, Rich, when and you may recall where he said, "I'm trying to build a business here."
Yes.
And everyone was kind of like, what the fuck's he talking about? Like,
get a load of this asshole. Yeah, get a load of this guy. Like, he's just a wrestler. Yeah, you're talking about the guys that actually do own the place, or are the EVPs.
But maybe he does own part of the place.
Yep. We have always said, as long as this podcast has existed, and we said, CM Punk, he never means, his words always mean something. He's never just says stuff to say stuff. He's always, there's intent and there's reason about everything that guy says, everything he says. And maybe that's a line we should have paid more attention to.
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like a weird, out of place line and part of the insane ramblings of an insane person who was on tilt that night. But if he really is an employee and not just an independent contractor, and if he does have a stake in the company or something, which I wasn't told, there's just a belief that he might be an employee. I don't know. The stake in the company, that's just me speculating now based on that line in the presser. I'm trying to build a business here. What? You're a fucking wrestler. Yeah, but now if he really is an employee, that line makes a lot more sense, right? So it's just something to think about.
It does.
It would complicate everything in terms of it would be much harder to fire him. It would be because the laws change, independent contractor
right,
versus
employment laws. I don't know, at will versus, who knows? Yeah, there could be a lot of other complications that come with, especially when it's two, and the Bucks we know are employees and Omega are employees. So it's two employees fighting. It's not just two wrestlers. You can't just tell a guy, all right, guys, come on, stop doing it. It's two different employment laws, different law. Yeah, we need to have an employment lawyer or somebody, really get on and let us know about the intricacies of that. But you just know it's a lot more than if it's just two wrestlers fucking around and getting in a fight. That's nothing. But yeah, two employees, that's a little different. So
it would definitely complicate matters for sure and explain why all of this is taking so long to sort out or whatnot. I also heard that, I think we would all agree that there's probably people in that locker room that fall on both sides. There's going to be Punk people. There's going to be elite people. And I mean, in terms of the other wrestlers and whatnot, right? I mean, there's going to be people who just...
Of course. And that's why we said, like last week, be very, very mindful of where you're getting your news from and who might be talking to who and all that sort of stuff. Because things went from, the stories were so different depending on what, path you were going to. One path is the Young Bucks are kicking down the door and they're being total dorks. And then one path is Kenny Omega's running into a burning building and grabbing a dog and getting it out. It's like, all right, guy, you got to be very mindful of who's telling these stories and why they might be telling you that version of that story or whatever. We're not saying that anyone was true or anyone was false. Just, be mindful that there are people that have taken sides, that have sides, and it's more advantageous for them to tell their part of the story or the story that they want you to know versus, what the actual truth was, which, some of these people might not even actually know the truth, but have heard, second, third, fourth hand telephone, on this stuff. So,
but to just give you an example of that, I mean, because Punk's, so much of the Punk stuff was public and front facing because it happened at the presser. Right. So he looks like a complete maniac and looks like he's like 1,000% in the wrong and all that. Well, I got something secondhand, not directly from a wrestler, but secondhand. But again, from somebody who I trust someone who I have total trust in. And I texted you the name.
Okay. So, this is the same person from the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got this secondhand, but this is from a wrestler. Okay. But and this is just one wrestler's point of view, but this is just to give our listeners an example of how people in the locker room are going to take all different sides in this and stuff. But at least to this one person in the company, they agree that Punk was unprofessional, obviously, and this probably isn't going to end well for them. But this person doesn't agree that Punk is a locker room cancer, especially compared to the Elite. Because in this person's view, the Elite are the ones that are never present. They leave early. They don't hang around the back. They seem detached from everybody else. While on the other hand, Punk is always around. He doesn't just do his segment and then disappear. He watches all of the tapings. He watches Dark. He watches Rampage. He gives advice when asked. And that kind of paints a very different picture than the maniac we saw at the presser, right? And that kind of paints a very different picture than the guy who everyone thinks is this self-absorbed, egomaniacal, selfish dude. But, and again, this is only one person's point of view. I'm sure you can get a dozen other people who have the opposite point of view. Punk is aloof. Punk never talks to anybody. Kenny Omega's the greatest guy in the world. Nick Jackson is, So again, I'm giving you one person's perspective secondhand. So keep that in mind. But it just goes to show that when it comes to that locker room, okay, even though Punk went fucking batshit crazy, it's hardly an across-the-board thing where it's anti-Punk and this guy's a cancer and he's eating the locker room from the inside out and everything was ruined in this company when he showed up and everything was great before he got here. That's not the case. There are plenty of people back there who are Team Punk who think the Elite are passive-aggressive little worms. And that Kenny Omega thing, which kind of slipped through the cracks in a lot of ways, where he stood up at the talent meeting, allegedly, and said that I wouldn't even have hired 80% of you. Did you hear that quote, Rich?
I did not. No, I did not. That's
see, this is what I mean. It didn't get a lot of press. And I forget who it reported originally, but allegedly Kenny Omega stood up at that talent meeting a couple weeks ago before all this went down. And his portion of it was, I wouldn't even have hired 80% of you, right? Well, this person says he really said that.
Oh.
And the phrasing was, 8 out of 10 of you wouldn't work here if it was up to me. You cannot stand up there as an EVP
yes.
and say that 80% of you in this room wouldn't work here if it was I mean, to me, that's just as disrespectful to Tony Khan as what CM Punk did. And you may disagree.
Yeah.
But if I get in front of a room of wrestlers that Tony Khan hired as an EVP, and I stand up in front of that room, standing right next to Tony Khan, and I say, I wouldn't have hired 80% of you, that's just as disrespectful to Khan as what Punk did publicly, in my view. And again, reasonable minds can disagree. So, we were pretty hard on Punk last week.
Do you who was the original source of that quote? I'm having trouble finding it because I can't
remember.
It's getting jumbled in a whole. Brian, was it Brian Last?
Don't know.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm going through the Game of Telephone.
All right, so the chat room says Cornette and Brian Last reported this per Reddit, which is probably why it didn't get much press because people were like, "Oh, Cornette, who gives a fuck?"
Right.
He's probably full of shit. Right. But
yeah,
I can tell you
most times.
Right. So why would you pay attention to it?
Right.
But I can tell you that, again, secondhand, through an intermediary, that they said that is true. Kenny Omega said that.
Okay. And I trust the person that you sent me much more than I trust.
And Brian
Last and Jim Cornette, a.k.a. Well, think of what tagged. It's just, in your mind, there's probably, wrestlers that would most enjoy the Jim Cornette podcast that might offer their take. So that's why, from anything coming from them, I'm a little dubious about the direct sourcing there between Cornette and Brian. But
so the point here is we were really hard on Punk last week, and for good reason. But I thought it was interesting in this conversation that I had over the course of the week that gave a perspective from the complete opposite side.
Right.
Like, I think the Elite are, now I'm paraphrasing. I think the Elite are these aloof douchebags who don't have any time for anybody. And they're telling us that they wouldn't even have hired us. And meanwhile, Punk is sitting here watching the Dark tapings and is available for anyone for advice. And don't get me wrong, Punk was wrong, but maybe not, maybe he's not.
Right, maybe he's saying stuff that a lot of
thing.
other people are thinking, but he's just doing it in a CM Punk way, where he just goes scorched earth and drops the fucking napalm down and lights it on fire, which he usually does. But maybe he's saying some stuff that other people think. Yeah, I have noticed a little bit. This week seems to be the week. Like last week was this guy's a fucking nutcase. Like this guy's off the rails. What's he doing? What's he saying? What yada yada yada. This week it did feel like we were going a little bit more. Okay, now let's maybe start looking at maybe there was other reasons going on. Maybe there were other people that. So that checks out with what the larger tenor of the conversation's been this week.
Absolutely, and let me tell you something. If Punk is an employee, if that is true, and Punk has a stake in the success of the company, again, it doesn't excuse how unhinged he was, but it also gives a little more clarity as to why he might be that upset.
Right. Because
now he's got more skin in the game other than just his dopey fucking feuds and programs. If he's got some stake in the success of the company independent of himself. So that is something to think about. And maybe this will be one of those things that, we casually drop and then everybody else does the hard work and confirms it. So we'll see if that's how this plays out. But anyway, I figure, this is a topic that's not going away. And, that was the latest. Have you heard any new shit concerning any of this?
I have not. No, I haven't heard much else about it. I've just been kind of reading the tea leaves and trying to.
Kind of a quiet week, right?
It has been a quiet week. The Kenny stuff that popped up and him being in Japan is interesting. I definitely want to keep an eye on that to see if he pops up at the Tokyo Game Show or you see him anywhere or there's any that to me is the most fascinating thing, because if he's still doing official company capacity stuff just outside of the quote unquote company, then that leads me to believe, because there's people with real concerns that, hey, this is the end of it. That the Bucks are going to lose their EVP status. They might be gone, yada, yada, all that sort of stuff. I think it would be really, really interesting to see if Omega is still involved in like the video game end of that. That would make me think, okay, there's probably just a cooler heads prevail. Hey, everybody just kind of chill out for a little bit, and then we'll come back to the table here in a bit. But and we'll bring you back in a while, but we just have to suspend everybody. But if he's, not there at all, if he's in Japan but not involved in the AEW, the booth or whatever at the Tokyo Game Show for the game that he, is spearheading a lot of it, that is going to be very interesting and very telling for me. So I've kind of kept an eye on that and sort of following, okay, where have these people been? And then obviously thinking about, okay, what are we going to do with being the elite? And then we got that news this week. It's, okay, being elite's on hiatus. That's interesting, because how are they going to navigate being the elite? How are they going to do being the elite? That's something that, what's the next step in that? We now know that. So I haven't been hearing kind of any of the dirt or the scoops, but more kind of the back end, okay, follow where these people are now and what's going to happen next as this investigation continues going on. So,
yeah, I think they should just shut down being the elite. I mean, I think everybody should just shut it down until this investigation's over and it all settles. And we all think everyone seems to think there's going to be lawsuits, especially if people get fired. So, if they're suspended from their employment right now, then just from the perspective of, all right, well, why would we keep promoting the company anyway if the end result could be that we're out of here? Because that's still on the table too. So I don't know. That's not really that surprising of a story either, that they would shut down being the elite for now.
No, it's like a backstage video thing. What are they going to do? Just sit in their house and do,
did people think they were gonna air the fights? I mean, it's and they're certainly not gonna do sort of these sarcastic, passive aggressive inside jokes regarding any of this, because they can't. I mean, that would be really dumb if they did. So yeah, I don't know what kind of content could be on it. They're not at the shows, they can't. So yeah, I don't know. That doesn't really surprise me either. I also don't watch Being the Elite at all, like ever. Do you watch Being the Elite?
I check in once every couple of months or whatever. I'll look, but it's not really my cup of tea. I mean, people love that stuff, and it's
I'm not knocking it. I don't really have any interest in it. I just want to watch wrestling.
Yeah, pretty much. Somebody asked us about the All Out numbers. You want to talk about the All Out pay-per-view numbers? We didn't have that in our run sheet, but I guess we can touch on that if you'd like.
Yeah, they landed right where I thought they would. I mean, I think we briefly touched on it when the very first estimates came out. Is there new information?
I don't think there's anything new, other than what we have. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is I think we kind of this is what we sort of predicted they would have. It's, the
I thought they wouldn't touch last year, and they would. Yeah, what were the estimates again? They were like
135 to 142. So
that's a little low. I thought they would hit 150, and I thought the early estimates were a little over 150. But if the new estimates are coming in 135 to 142,
that was in the newsletter this week, is Dave Meltzer saying, between 135 and 142.
Yeah, then that would be lower than I expected. I thought 150. 135 to 1. Yeah, that'd be a little low. I'm curious what Thurston would have. He's usually a little different than Dave, but he's also usually a little lower than Dave. So, yeah, I don't know. I know at the scrum, that obviously wasn't the lead topic, but Khan was saying that, it was going to come in under last year, and I forget the rest of what he said. But, a tad low. I would call that a tad low.
Yeah, I would say 150. I'd like to see that official, what Thurston comes up with. But, 150 would you're out of your mind if you think it was going to get anywhere near 200,000. I mean, we talked about that. That is a number that should probably just be stricken from the record book. Like, that was such a perfect storm of things happening, and it's a tough one to ever compare stuff ever again too. But that's below Revolution and Double or Nothing, so that's not good. Yeah, you definitely want it. So we'll see. I'll see when Thurston's numbers come out. It's still kind of the estimates or whatever, which might be the best we ever get, unfortunately, because they tend to kind of trickle out weirdly. But we'll see. But it's not good. It's not great. I would definitely say 150 is where they needed to be.
Yeah, that's what we said the week before. I thought it would be. This is killing my gimmick as the accurate pay-per-view predictor, but so that lasted one show. But a little low. I would agree, a little low.
Anything else in AEW land that you wanted to touch on?
That's all I got. We'll see if anything happens. Well, you'll be gone next week, and then which I'm sure now it'll all be resolved.
It'll all be resolved. Everything will be nice and tidy, and everybody will be fired on Tuesday next week. Everybody will be fired, or Thursday this week. The Young Bucks have been released and they're gone, and Kenny Omega's indefinitely suspended, and CM Punk is the new EVP. Or so, who knows? Who the fuck knows what's going to happen? But something wild and crazy, I'm sure. So Vince McMahon will die or something this week, I'm sure. So not to wish death on anybody. I actually really wish he would not do that this week. So we'll see what ends up.
Someone wants to know, is that an indictment on Punk as a draw at all in the chat? I would say no. I mean, let's say it did 142. All right, so they came in.
I think it's an indictment on their booking. I think it's an indictment on their booking because it's just you did the CM Punk Moxley thing on Dynamite. Some people saw the match and thought, all right, well that's good. I know why they did it. I get it, but that to me is more a result of that match happening more than
CM not only that. Power. I don't think like the number's a disaster or anything. I just think it's a little low. Like I don't think that number is indicative of anything other than it came in slightly below Joe Lanza's estimate. I mean, what does that even mean? Now, I do think it should have been about 150 based on the other pay-per-views previous to Forbidden Door, like you said. But a pay-per-view coming in a couple thousand buys low, I think it would be dangerous to make sweeping judgments on anybody's drawing power involved or anything like that. And I don't know why Punk specifically. I mean, Moxley was in that match too. Why wouldn't it, if it's going to reflect poorly on Punk, why wouldn't it reflect poorly on Moxley as well? And maybe doing the match twice ultimately didn't turn out to be a great move. I mean, the match felt hot to me. The numbers always tell the truth on these things. It's like, the numbers are like white spandex. They tell no lies, right? So it's, whether a match was truly hot or not based on the number it does. And that, goes for television ratings, the pay-per-views, tickets sold, all of those things. So the show sold, 10 or 11,000 tickets, whatever it was. It did $1 million gate. And it did a slightly underwhelming amount of pay-per-view buys. When you take that all told, I don't know if that says anything about either of the people in the main event,
right.
To be completely honest. That's, in my opinion. Are you still there? Because my laptop froze.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm here.
All right, well, we're just going to ignore the fact that my laptop froze, because all that matters is that...
so you can't... You're done? You can't do anything, but you can still hear me and I can still hear you. Okay, well...
Anything in terms of, like... if you could hear me, then I guess I don't know.
You're good.
All that matters.
I'll send you a message if I stop hearing you. So
yeah, that's really all that matters. I can't flip over the cage match to look something up real quick, but
that's going to be a problem later in the show. I think we're going to have to.
I can do the fucking show. Let me see if I can get this to. I probably shouldn't fuck with it though, right?
Well, now's the good time to fuck with it. I would say if you're going to have to fuck with it,
wouldn't be a great idea right now.
Go for
task manager.
Yeah, let's get a task manager. Something's causing some problem there.
Let's close a bunch of shit.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Dumb shit. Get that stuff out of here.
Well, Audacity don't need to be open. That's.
Now we're streaming live to the world. To the NoDope chat room. Thank you. Hello, NoDope chat room.
Just the Chrome. All right, we're back in business.
Get that Audacity out of there. So.
Yeah. All right. Let's go.
Back at it. All right. So that is AEW. That's the Young Bucks. We're going to get to some of the other stuff. Before we do that, I do want to let you know about flagshippatreon.com. We have some really, really cool stuff coming up over the next couple of weeks and coming up in the next couple of days as well. We just got done recording, literally, 24 hours ago, we got done recording the Deep Dive, a brand new Deep Dive. Do we want to reveal what it is or what the topic is?
Well,
or we want people
when
to
are you posting it?
It'll be posted by the time the NoDope chat room, you guys are listening live, but most of the other people listening, it'll have been posted already. So,
well, then
let's spoil it. Let's spoil it.
I think for the $10 live listeners, we should let's reveal to them what the deep dive topic is. Why not?
Let's do it. So the deep dive coming up, we'll be releasing probably tomorrow on the 14th, Wednesday the 14th. It is the deep dive, the Midnight Express versus the original Midnight Express. And Joe, this was your pitch, your idea. Do you want to kind of set the stage for what we talk about in this deep dive?
Sure. So in 1988, Paul E. Dangerously, along with Randy Rose and Dennis Condrey, perpetrated a shocking attack of Jim Cornette, Stan Lane, and Bobby Eaton during a Stan Lane singles match on the NWA 605 show, kicking off the now infamous Midnight Express versus original Midnight Express feud, which only lasted about 4 months in real time, and the feud ended up being really an enormous bomb for a variety of reasons that we will not give away here, and we will discuss on the deep dive. Booking changes, ownership changes in the company, all sorts of drama, really killed what started off as a red-hot angle. And because it's the deep dive, we're not just going to go over the 4-month duration of the feud. Oh, no. This deep dive begins in 1980 and doesn't end until July of 1989.
Yeah.
So we're going to take you through the entirety of the 80s and deep dive and examine the original Midnight Express versus the Midnight Express feud of 1988. So that is the deep dive topic. That will be on the Patreon $5 feed.
$5 tier. Yep.
So if you're listening live to the flagship right now, you will have access to that deep dive because you are on the $10 tier. If you are listening to the flagship at some other point over the course of the week and you are not a subscriber and you want to hear what did we do, like 2.5 hours or something?
I think it was 2 hours and 40 minutes when it was all said and done.
Holy shit. So
it's either 2:15 or 2:45, I forget. But it's either way, you got a lot of us.
Little editing required.
No, there was just one point where I said something and I think you were gone. But no, not that much editing. I think we did okay.
You want to know why I was gone? I remember when this happened. Because that fucking cat attacked me again. and jumped on my back with its claws, and I'm like, I hit mute, and I was like, I'm screaming. And then the cat stole my pen and ran off with the pen in its mouth, and I had to put down the headset and go chase the cat around the house. Yeah, so that's why. But
and there was the nurse run-in too for a random bite that needed identifying too. So that had to get edited off as well. But that's all right.
But the point is, you're going to get well over 2 hours of deep dive on that particular topic. That'll be on
a bug bite, by the way, not a human bite. Just want to clarify that in case.
Well, you are in Chicago, and Ace Steel is always lurking around.
Exactly. So, you got to be careful. Hold the Steel Dominion, not that far from here. So, yeah, you got to be careful about biting in Chicago. It happens a lot. But, no, it was a bug bite that we had to identify. But, yeah, that is on the $5 tier. Deep dive, Midnights versus the original Midnights. The great thing about the deep dive is we give you a playlist as well. So you can follow along with us. With matches and promos and all the other good stuff, which is the key to the deep dive. You can listen to the deep dive, and you're going to get just as much out of it, but you're going to get even more out of it if you listen and watch along with the videos, watch along with the promos. Just a completely different way to experience it, and a better the best way to experience a deep dive, is to watch along with us, or listen to us, pause, watch the video, listen to us again. That sort of style is probably the best way to do it. So you got the deep dive up there. I'll be on the $5 tier at flagshippatreon.com.
That comes with that great playlist, like you're saying, of all the videos that we selected that tell the story of the feud. And speaking of bites, I had a girlfriend once who was into the astrology bullshit.
Okay.
And she had an astrology book, and she was like, "Hey, I'm a Virgo," and it said in the book, it says here that if you bite a Virgo on the buttocks, it will give him an instant erection.
Okay.
Right?
She tested out the theory?
So she's like, I want to try this. And I was like, I mean, if you want to bite my ass cheek.
What kind of bite are we talking here? Did she clarify what type as like a playful bite or like a chomp? Because that's yeah.
Well, if you don't think there's more to this story, you don't know anything about
Go on. All right.
I'm like, all right, I'm game. Let's see if this.
Who doesn't like boners? Yeah, boners are great. So cool. Let's do it.
So I pull down the old trousers, right? And I'm like, bite away. So she takes a big old bite out of the fucking fleshy part of the ass cheek there. And I have to report, Rich, it did not give me an instant erection.
No, did it draw blood?
No, she didn't bite me that hard.
Okay, so it's just
I felt it though. Like, she
it wasn't a playful bite. It was an intent bite.
It was an attempt at a sexy bite, I guess.
Okay,
but
all right. Well, that's probably why you didn't get she probably has to munch down in there to get that erection. You got to, really get
I
going.
just think the astrology is bull. Look, I don't think that
you're saying the stars are wrong, not you?
Maybe the fucking moon wasn't in the right quarter or some shit, but all I know is this girl biting my ass cheek did not give me the instant erection that the astrology book said gives the Virgo male. So it didn't work out that way.
I'm a Pisces, so I have nothing to offer to this. I don't know what you have to bite on me to give me an erection.
I'm shocked you're not a Libra. I'm shocked you're not a Libra.
You care about this stuff way more than I do. I don't even know what that means.
Not that I
don't even know what that means or what I should say about that. So I'm just going to
because of this X, I happen to know.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
What all the fucking signs are supposed to be. Right? And like the Libra always wants to be fair and avoid confrontation. And
sounds about right. Yeah.
See,
good.
So you ripped me, but you fit the description of a Libra, which once again shows that astrology is bullshit because you're a Pisces. See?
When's a birthday for a Libra? Let me see, because I'm
it's like October.
Oh, I'm nowhere near that. Yeah, no, it's
you're not on the border either.
No, because I'm like I'm like a day away from being a leap year kid, so that could have turned things around in a weird way. But no, I'm not related to any of that stuff. So
yeah, you're the two fish. The fucking,
yeah, I don't even know what does that mean about me, Joe? Since you have all the knowledge,
I don't know a ton about Pisces. But it's the two fish.
Yeah,
it's like twins.
I guess. Yeah, sure.
The Virgo is a virgin. That's what
you're the Virgo, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the virgin. So the thing about the astrology is
dumb.
There's so many traits.
Well, and then but have you noticed this? Like now, I don't know. I think now it's probably been going on for 2,000 years. But there's oh, that's your sun sign, but your moon sign. I'm like, oh, get out of here.
Because you're just trying to find some shit that fits.
No. You're not being your sun, but you're being your moon. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Go away.
It's like there'll be 40 different traits.
Right. Well, of course, I'm going to fit into one of these. Yeah,
you'll 8 or 9 of them will fit, and you'll be like, whoa. It is true, but you ignore like the other 26 that don't don't fit you at all. You know, it's like anything else that's faith-based. You just kind of have to believe.
All right, well, now that Joe's buried religion and astrology, let's get into all right, but you know what you can believe in? Professional wrestling. You know what we can believe in? Oh, yeah, a few more Flagship Patreon things here real quick. I was going to seamlessly get into CMLL because they've been around for 89 years, but a few other Flagship Patreon things. A brand new episode of Goldberg 173-1 just went up last week, covering the month of August in Goldberg's 1998. We're going to go month by month with this series. Obviously, the next episode will come out later in September, early October, covering all of the month of September. And things are getting a little dicey. They gave the title to Goldberg. He had his win streak, and now they have no idea what to do with him. So he's facing such luminaries as Al Green and Scott Putski, and he's in battle royals, and he's not booked on other shows, and he's missing shows, and they don't know what the fuck they're doing with him. So we now have the next chapter of this Goldberg up, Chapter 2, 173-1. Al Green and Scott Putski really is what it's called. But 53 minutes on Goldberg's August of 1998. And then obviously NFL Intelligentsia as well. Those came out last week as well. Those were previews for the NFC and AFC. Some betting advice, or not advice, entertainment advice. If you are going to, you can glean some knowledge from those. But I've listened to a few of them, listened to bits and pieces of it, rave reviews from everybody as well. So NFL Intelligentsia. We can do non-wrestling stuff too on the Patreon, and we do that several times as well. So those are also available on the $5 tier, flagshippatreon.com, and you might get a bonus new series from me as well in the next few days. I have one recorded. I'm not sure that I wanted to have a few more recorded before I left, but maybe I'll just have the one and drop it and see what people think. But that might be coming in the next couple days, but open to holding it off until I come back as well. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But plenty of stuff there for you, Flagship Patreon. Again, all the live flagships on the $10 tier, instant reaction live, rave reviews for that as well. We've still heard people outpouring of support coming in for All Out, our instant reaction live. People telling me still the best AEW All Out review that they've heard. So definitely great to hear that. But a lot of people said that, and that is available for you to listen to as well. So match of the week, all the written content, all the other stuff is available over at flagshippatreon.com. If you can't get enough of us, if 3 hours every week isn't enough, well, boy, we got a lot more hours of us over there at flagshippatreon.com. So there you go.
I pulled up some Pisces traits, and I'm looking at 3 different charts, and all 3 of them are different. So
see,
here's one for you. Pisces will keep it real 100%. Prideful. Loyal to a fault.
Okay, hold on. I'm listening.
Dreamer.
Nah.
Music geek.
Nah.
That's so dumb. Everybody likes music.
Yeah, likes music, enjoys food.
That's like the dating profiles. I enjoy music. I like fun. Those are things everybody
Thanks.
likes.
I'm glad. Good to know, yeah.
The know-it-all. Human lie detector. Hopeless romantic.
Oh, you got me. Yeah, that's there. These are not related, though. I feel like these people, like, because you listed the 4 things that first time, and like one of those 4 was me, but the other things are like completely different.
This is what I mean.
Yeah.
You know,
What a joke. What a joke this astrology is. Get out of here.
Speaks fluent sarcasm.
No? Okay. Listening.
Will knock your lights out. You are so averse to confrontation.
Yeah, that sounds like the absolute last thing I would ever do. So that's not me.
And then you look at another chart and like it's all different things like that are opposite of those. It's so
I'm starting to think this is on the up and up here. But what
is
on the up and up, Joe? Is CMLL celebrating their 89th anniversary coming up this weekend. We have a great preview from the one and only Cubs fan, luchablog.com, up right now at voicesofwrestling.com. So no better person to preview that show than Cubs fan. So that is available there at voicesofwrestling.com if you want to look that up. Also, you can follow him at luchablog.com and at luchablog on Twitter. An invaluable resource for all things lucha all the time, Cubs fan. But they got the anniversary show this weekend, and there's some energy here with CMLL, and I will say Cubs fans sent us this Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago, and I just kind of blew it off. I was like, yeah, maybe we'll get to it. And then he kind of said, hey, the anniversary's coming up this weekend as well. Maybe you should watch this Grand Prix. Maybe you should get in, and I'm glad I did. There's some interesting stuff going on in CMLL, and this Grand Prix match was it was a happening, man. There was a sold out Arena Mexico, everybody going crazy, and this is a fun as hell match that is available. I don't know how publicly. Well, I guess it's publicly available, right? I don't know. Is that an unlisted video? I don't know. You could probably find it. It's not going to be that hard, but Grand Prix International. It's from August 19th, Arena Mexico. Hell of a match, Joe. Hell of a match. A lot of guys. This was Cibernetico. Here is Atlantis. Mystico was in here. Stuka Jr., Templario, Titan, Ultimo Guerrero, El Sublime. Who else was in this match? I'm missing. My computer has now froze as well, and I have lost.
What do you want to know? Who's in the Cybernetico?
Yeah, who was Volador Jr. I know was on the one side. Oh, here we go. El Macias, Kenny King, Lince Dorado. This is the other team now. Macias, Kenny King, Lince Dorado, Matt Taven, or I don't know how to pronounce this guy's. Oraculo, Robbie Eagles, Rocky Romero, and Tiger Mask. I got most of them. There. So
you're talking about Oraculio?
Oraculio, there we go. Yeah, that's how you.
Yeah, that's you know him. That's Jay Rios. He wrestles all over.
Yes. I don't know him under that name, unfortunately, but
he was the first guy out. Also, by the way. So
I knew it was him because the announcers kept saying Puerto Rico. Anytime a Puerto Rican guy was in there, they made sure to let you know that man was Puerto Rican. I don't know why. They just could not wait to tell you that man was Puerto Rican. Lince Dorado got in there. Oh, no, Puerto Rico. I'm like, all right, I get it. I got it.
This match is it's the Mexican team versus the foreigners.
Right, exactly. So I get that. But yeah, they seem to really hit home the Puerto Rican guys for some reason. So
hey, this show drew huge. This drew a 5-figure attendance. I don't know if they sold out Arena Mexico necessarily, but if they didn't sell out, it was very close to selling out. And, if you've seen a Cibernetico style match before, you know what this is. It's like 1,000 guys on each team, and it's elimination style, and Volador Jr. ended up being the winner. This took place, by the way, on August 19th, but with everything that's been going on, we never really got around to it, and it worked out really good to get to it this week because the anniversary show is coming up, so we get to preview that. And there wasn't a whole lot else going on in terms of major shows. So the CMLL anniversary show kind of stands alone with, I guess, just the All Japan 50th anniversary show as the major shows this week. So it was a good time to talk about this show, which did tremendous business and was very well received. I watched the Hechicero versus Euphoria World's heavyweight title match that was also on this show, and that was a notebook match for me. Hechicero is always excellent. Now, these two guys normally team together in a lot of the 6-man tags, so this was not your traditional face versus Rudo style, Technico versus Rudo style lucha match. So, and they shook hands afterwards and raised each other's hands and all that. And Hechicero retained the title. But that was really an excellent match that I can strongly recommend if people could get their hands on it. I think I got sent a grimy link from a Google Drive or something because this was a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I don't know how available that one is. But
people can.
Yeah, you can find it. You can. Yeah, if you really want to find it, you can probably find it. So.
Yeah, but I found it, so why can't anybody else find it?
Right.
The Cibernetico match, though, which, look, it basically followed form. It starts off as a big schmaz where they're all beating the shit out of each other. Then it settles in where each guy pairs off with somebody on the other team. They run through their spots. They play to the crowd. They tag out, rinse, repeat, right? Then the next pairing comes in, and they go through their spots, and they play to the crowd. And everybody gets their little shine, and then it's like the third act of the match is the eliminations. Now we're getting down to business, and now the match is booked out. However, it's going to be booked out. And Volador Jr. was the sole survivor, the winner of this year's match. And look, for a match that, went about an hour, and a lot of times these kinds of matches lose me, this held my attention all the way through. I thought this was a lot of fun. I think that the big crowd with the and I thought it was a great crowd. The crowd was rowdy.
Oh, they were nuts. Yeah, this crowd was insane this entire time.
We're into everything, and it really helped. And the one thing I noticed too, is the wrestlers were really feeding off of how great the crowd was.
Yeah, there was a lot of, like, when a guy would get out of the ring or whatever, the heel would dance in front of the crowd to boos, and then the babyface would come in and knock him out, and then he'd, gesture in front of the crowd. There was a lot of playing to the crowd because they knew this thing was red hot. So everybody, when they had their moment, would get in there and do something funny or something, do something to get the crowd, either on their side or booing them, and that was a nice little touch.
Yeah, so, and, obviously the foreigners were positioned as the heels, and and the crowd was behind the Mexican side. And it was interesting to me because the last two remaining men on the foreign side were Tiger Mask and Rocky Romero. So they really took care of the New Japan guys in the match, which is interesting because whenever CMLL guys go to Japan for tournaments, they always finish in last place with.
All right, what's going on, guys? Just take a quick break here from the Flagship Podcast to let you know about our friends at Drizzly. And if you look for it, every day has a cause for celebration. You can celebrate a friend for their promotion, baby, wedding, life thing. You can celebrate yourself for keeping the couch warm. It's no easy task, especially if it's a big couch. Or maybe you just want to celebrate living in the year 2022, where you can get the best selection of beer, wine, and spirits delivered from Drizzly in under 60 minutes without leaving said couch. Yes, you can do that because that is the technology we have in 2022. You can get the best selection of beer, wine, and spirits delivered to your doorstep in under 60 minutes with Drizzly. So you're going to do that. You're going to download the Drizzly app, and you're going to go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com, and you're going to get your favorite drinks delivered today. Again, you're going to get that Drizzly app, or you're going to go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com, and you're going to get your favorite drinks delivered today. Again, beer, wine, and spirits delivered to your doorstep in under 60 minutes. What a beautiful thing. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com and get your favorite drinks delivered today.
Progressive Snapshot can save you money based on how you drive and how much you drive. So the safer you drive, the more money you could save. Now, if you didn't hear that because you were looking at your phone while driving, let me say it again. Seriously, put down your phone. That is so unsafe. If you didn't do stuff like use your phone while driving, you could save money with Progressive Snapshot. But saving or not, just put it down. And if you did hear it the first time because you weren't looking at your phone, nice work. You'd love Snapshot from Progressive because it rewards safe drivers. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Snapshot not available in California and North Carolina or from all agents.
Like 2 points.
Right, they do not respect them.
Like
Poor Stuka Jr. is usually all the way at the bottom there. Volador usually gets a couple here and there, but they don't respect them at all when they come.
No, they don't protect them in the booking at all. And it's like, then you see this match, and two New Japan underneath guys are the stars of their team. So Rocky Romero and Tiger Mask made it all the way to the end. In fact, Tiger Mask was that was the final elimination, and Tiger Mask eliminated some people. He eliminated Atlantis Jr. for sure. It might have been his only elimination. I can't remember, but he had, so they really took care of their promotional partner in this one. And, with Rocky and Tiger going to the end. But, Matt Taven is always super over in Mexico. Kenny King was having the time of his life. Macias, Robbie Eagles was in the match. So I thought it was a lot of fun. And, Atlantis Jr., who I think, if I'm not mistaken, rolled out the Atlantis Jr. gimmick on the last Fantastica Mania, which might have been 2019. I don't think they've had one since then, right? Because of the pandemic.
They didn't. Yeah, I don't remember if they had one because it's usually maybe a little bit before. Because
it's in February.
Yeah, so they may have been able to slide it in.
They may have had it in 20.
I think they did have a 2020, and then they have not had one since then. So they did have a 2020. Yeah, that was in January, so they were able to get that in before. And he was. Let me make sure if he was on those shows. It does not look like he was in the 2020 Fantastica Mania. Let me double check on 2019.
He was in 2019, and I think that's when he debuted the gimmick.
Okay.
If you could double check his 2019 matches, I think he first worked as Atlantis Jr. at Fantastica Mania 2019. if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the 2019 tour also featured the debut of Atlantis Jr. So yeah, he was
there. You go.
And so he did not come back for 2020, but he was there for 2019. So
all right, so that's what I was thinking. So, but they did have one in 2020. But in 2019, because these guys, they'll usually wrestle under a different gimmick for a few years until their father or uncle or mentor, whoever the case may be, deems them worthy of taking on the name. And I think his debut you just said it. His debut as Atlantis Jr. was at Fantasticomania 2019. So it's been a few years, and I obviously haven't seen him work because, as I said at the top, I have almost exclusively ignored CMLL during the pandemic because of how dire it was. So I've almost exclusively watched AAA in terms of my lucha. So I haven't seen this guy since 2019. And, I don't know his reputation in lucha circles, but what I would say about Atlantis Jr. is, holy shit, he looks just like his father. Like he's turning into his father body-wise, like the same chest shape and obviously the mask and the tights and everything. But and he does the same backbreaker and everything. So I was impressed by him after not seeing him for a few years, and the match was just a lot of fun. So I don't think the other two matches aired anywhere, but the Hechicero Euphoria match and the Cibernetico I thought were a shit ton of fun. I think they were both notebook worthy. I went 4 stars on the Hechicero match, and the Cibernetico was one of the better matches of that type. It was fun and energetic. What it was.
It really was, and I'm glad that you brought up the Atlantis stuff because that was exactly what my notes were. The thing that I came away with that match is going, holy shit, this guy's great now. Like, what? Like, I have not seen this guy in a while. And the last time I saw him, it was like, yeah. And I remember us we maybe even talked about it as well. Like, okay, doing the gimmick, but he's not there. He's not, he's not ready yet. He's just kind of, and that's tough. It's very difficult for these guys to follow up to their legendary father. I mean, Lucha Libre is filled with guys that just can never, ever, ever follow up to what their fathers did or what, their grandfathers did or whatever. The family lineage is so huge, and a lot of guys just can't, they just can't live up to that. And we were thinking, man, you got to follow Atlantis. That's going to be tough. And we saw the guy, he was, he's fine, but he wasn't all the way there. It wasn't all, and that was obviously very early in his career. And now we're seeing, holy shit, this guy's good. Like, that, as the match was going on, I went, whoa, they got a guy here. And so I wrote that note there. They have a guy here. And then Cubs fan says, hey, I have, the Anniversary show preview up if you want to post it. And I went, all right, cool. And his lead topic is that CMLL on their 89th birthday is going to celebrate having a new star. That new star, Atlantis Jr. So he sees it too. And then I come out of this show and you see it and I'm like, all right, well, these are smart wrestling minds that all are coming together independent of each other because I didn't talk to you about this.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to Cubs fan about it. And I haven't been following CMLL at all, so I don't know that that's kind of bubbling or whatever, but I was watching this match and he did a dive to the outside and the crowd exploded and he was putting his hands in the air and they were going, yeah. And I went, holy shit, they got a guy. They got a guy here. And yeah, it was kind of funny to come to that conclusion, read Cubs fans saying they have a new star in Atlantis Jr., he's going to be a giant thing, and then hearing you say the same thing, I was like, all right, then they might have something here with this guy because these are all smart wrestling minds that independently came to the same conclusion.
I tell you, I've always had that eye for talent, Craig. So, makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's just funny because I looked up Virgo traits. You want to know what the first one was? And you could throw, you want to throw astrology right out the window?
What do you got?
Humble.
Oh, okay. Well, yep. That's those stars lie. That's all I'll say.
So anyway, those two matches were excellent, but I also watched the show from 8/12 only because I had saved it at the time and it had a Dragon Rojo Jr. versus Robbie Eagles main event for the middleweight title, and that I went notebook on as well. I thought that match was a shit ton of fun in a completely different way than the heavyweight title match was on the Cibernetico show. And, so I went low notebook on that too, probably 4 for that one as well. And I watched that whole show. I watched all the tags because I wanted to, do a big catch up of the company before I watched the Anniversary show and get caught up on, who's working for the company these days, who's feuding with who looks good. And just, again, even the energy on the 12th, which was also an Arena Mexico show, the opener with the comedy, with the little guy, with the little dude that wears the furry blue gorilla suit. I don't know.
I forget his name, but yeah, people are going to get mad, but I don't care, really. So, and then
Negro Casas was in the match number 2 with Blue Panther, and I think it was Soberano Jr., and it was Atlantis Jr. in that match, and Cavanario, who has put on some weight, by the way. Cavanario, again, I haven't seen these guys wrestle in like 2 years. And Hijo del Villano 3, remember he had that great match a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something, Negro Casas never slows down. This guy is still, and Blue Panther too. And I really hope that Bryan Danielson, when he starts traveling again, has a chance to get down there and have his dream match with Blue Panther, because Blue Panther, I think, can still have a quality match at this stage with him, but the clock has to be ticking. He's 61 years old, and he's starting really to look at, he was always kind of balding, but he can still, he's not as good as Negro Casas. He's not as good as him, but I think he could still have an enjoyable match with Bryan Danielson if Danielson hurries up and gets down there. But my takeaways from that were, again, Atlantis Jr. Looked good. Negro Casas is ageless. Blue Panther still looks good. And Cavanario has put on some weight. Not even in a bad way.
Yeah, you mean that in a good way, right? I didn't see him on this show, but... I
mean, not in a good way, like, not in a bad way. Like,
but also, like, careful? Just got to be careful?
No, well, he looks like he's just thicker now, and it didn't seem to hold back his work. But it was just notable because he looked different. He just looked 25 pounds heavier.
Okay.
And it was kind of a shock because maybe if I had been watching CMLL...
But again, we're coming in this like from a time loop. Like, I haven't watched any CMLL in like 2.5 years. So.
I'm coming out of a coma. Yeah, I haven't seen the guy wrestle. Actually, the last CMLL match I saw was a Cavanario singles match against... Maybe it wasn't Cavanario. It was Bandito versus somebody in the empty arena. And I reviewed it behind the paywall. It might have been Cavanario. I can't remember. Nobody cares. Point here is... I watched this whole show, and the crowd was red hot for that too. And and then the other one was Hechicero and Euphoria and Mephisto. And again, because like I said, these guys team together, and they worked Titan, Volador, and Atlantis. And then the main event was the Dragon Rojo Jr. versus Robbie Eagles match. So that show is on YouTube, on CMLL's YouTube channel, and it is well worth people's time. If you kind of want to get geared up for the anniversary show or just get back into CMLL, if you're like us and you kind of haven't been paying attention during the pandemic, I was very impressed with that show too. I watched everything I watched today. The thing about it is it's far more traditional Lucha Libre than AAA. I think everybody's aware of that. AAA to me is sort of like...
It's junk.
It's junk. It's the Lucha GCW.
Yeah, we talked the last time when we watched one of those fake Triple Mania shows. Remember, our end result was I think we did it on an overrun. Which the best part about that is a member of the AAA management subscribed to us, I believe, because he thought that we were going to review the show. Hopefully, I don't think he.
We did review the show.
Yeah, I don't think he re-upped with us after the segment. But I don't know if that to be true, if he re-upped or not, or whatever. But at the end, I was just like, this company stinks. Like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like, there's certain times where AAA I like it and it's fun to watch, but it's always in a wink, wink, nudge. Most of the time, it's in a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Ha ha ha! Look how silly they're being. Where CMLL is never that way. Sometimes CMLL will bore me to tears, but when it hits, it's like, yeah, this is what I want. And from the history of the show, when we've enjoyed Lucha, almost 90% of the time it's been CMLL stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's been that stuff that's like, all right, here we go. This is some interesting, the talent, the work, the way that they work, the style they work, the arena, the way the fans react, all that sort of stuff. It just has a much more kind of professional feel to it that I think you and I
it's traditional Lucha, and look. But the thing is, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of periods where CMLL is dry as a bone.
Oh yeah. It can get real boring real fast.
They don't book anything. It's like the big knock on them is they know they're going to draw those tourists. So they don't have to put effort into the booking. There's also very oftentimes there's a lot of CMLL. There's a lot of Arena Mexico shows where it's very obvious that the crew is sleepwalking through the shows, and they have their times where it's just a very boring promotion. There's no doubt about it. What I watched today, and I watched through all of August, the pertinent stuff. I went back a little deeper and dabbled with some stuff from earlier in the summer as well. It came across as vibrant and exciting and a promotion that's doing some good things right now. So, and it came across as very much a dichotomy versus AAA. Here's the best way I can describe AAA. Okay. It's fun to drive past a car crash until you see the body bags. You know what I mean? Like, it's I guess that's a morbid way to put it.
That's a very morbid way, but I get the idea. I get what you're saying.
But the idea here, you know what I mean? It's like AAA. There's times where AAA really lands, but it lands in a car crash sort of way. And then there's times where it's just AAA is just too much. Like it all feels the same. It's all just fucking garbage wrestling.
Oh yeah, after that fake Triple Mania we watched, I was like, dude, I can't watch this promotion again for a while.
It's like it'll be like 4 plunder matches and then the same 5-way that we've seen 1,000 times.
Right. And explosions and there's loud noises and Hugo's bleeding and there's Jeff Jarrett and here's Vampiro farting and it's like, oh god, all right.
And it's like the 5-way is always really good, but I've seen it 100 times, and then the other stuff is just the plunder like wears out its welcome, 40 minutes into the show, and you're just sick of it. And CMLL is it's more traditional lucha libre, and I think when both companies land, I prefer CMLL. Now, that could be absence making the heart grow fonder, and that maybe it's the Dragon Gate effect where, all right, I haven't watched CMLL in a long time, and wow, this is different. I haven't watched good lucha in a while, because even the lucha I've been watching has been shitbag AAA. But I do think the stuff I watched today was genuinely good, and I didn't know what to expect, especially with a cybernetical match. It could be an hour where I'm just staring at my fucking clock going, when does this shit end? And I'm just watching it out of obligation, but it held my attention. And, and maybe not watching it for a while kind of helps too. It's like, you're not, it seems like it's completely fresh post pandemic. And I really did enjoy everything I watched today.
All right, so let's touch on this anniversary show coming up this weekend. Now, it's a little bit wonky in terms of when you can watch it, where you can watch it, all that sort of stuff. Cubs Fan does detail it in the voicesofwrestling.com preview, so if you're interested in watching this live, he does kind of explain some ways that you can do that. If not, I know they do put it up eventually on their YouTube channel, but it is kind of hacked to pieces, and I think it's like an hour and a half or something like that. So it's not ideal. It also finds its way online pretty quickly usually, so if you want to wait, but if you want to watch live, and it feels like a fun show that you might want to actually check out live if you're interested in the segment that we talk about. Cubs Fan, as I said, it has some details on how you can go about doing that. But the big thing here is someone's losing their mask or someone's losing their hair. Now, have you been able to know what makes sense of what this match is and how this all kind of works out? Cubs Fan lays it out.
It's a tournament.
It is, yeah. It's a little mini tournament. It's like a tag team tournament.
Okay, so it's not – it's – okay, normally when they do these kind of tournaments, the losers advance.
Right.
Because the idea is you don't want to lose your mask.
Right, this one's a little interesting in the case that I had to read it a couple times being like, man, I don't understand this at all, but it does – yeah, so lay it out.
No, I think I've got the gist of it. So what it is enemies are teaming together.
Right.
Guys that are feuding with one another are on the same teams.
So you want to win, and yes, you might be in a position to lose your mask, but you want to take your opponent's mask.
You want to take the other guy's mask.
Right.
So in this tournament, the winners are advancing
right.
as opposed to the losers, with the idea being what Rich just said. You want to win and advance and get to the final because you want to take that guy's mask in the worst way because he's your enemy, even if it means your mask being at risk as well. Plus the idea being it's the anniversary show and there's sort of a prestige involved in you want to work the main event of the anniversary show, number one. You want to be in the main event of the anniversary show, and you want to take your enemy's mask. One of the teams is 2 guys like Ultimo Guerrero and Averno. They already lost their mask. So in their case, it would be a hair match.
Right.
They advance.
Yeah. If they make it to the finals, it would be a hair versus hair match. Every other team here as all mask guys, and they will be battling to take their mask. So that's where it took me a little bit of a second. I'm like, wait, why would the winners advance? And yeah, okay, it makes sense then. It's you want to win so that you can take your opponent's mask in the end in that final match. So it's an interesting lineup, and Cubs fan gave some compelling thoughts for every one of the teams being potentially in that final match. Atlantis and Fuerza Guerrera are going to face Averno and Ultimo Guerrero in that first match, and like you said, Averno and Ultimo Guerrero putting their hair on the line if they advance. And then the other one, the more interesting one here, is Atlantis Jr. and Stuka Jr. Versus Dragon Roja Jr. and Soberano Jr.
Soberano Jr.
Yeah, so that's an interesting, because it's some younger guys in there. Juniors obviously all over the place. The first match, a little bit of your old heads, and the second match, your young guys. So you're at least going to get an old guys versus young guys semifinal. And then the interesting thing comes in who eventually gets to that main event, and who do they put in that spot. And he theorizes that Atlantis even getting one win, even to get to the semifinals, would be huge for his career, let alone if he got to the finals and took someone's
Atlantis
mask.
Jr.
Yeah, Atlantis Jr. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal for old Atlantis to get there. He's been there plenty of times, but Atlantis Jr. winning a match, getting to the semifinals, maybe having a match in that finals would be interesting. But he does point out they tend to shy away from father versus son type stuff. So maybe the betting line favorite would not be Atlantis and Stuka versus Atlantis and Fuerza.
Yeah, even though that would be a semifinal as opposed, a final of the tournament.
Right,
that wouldn't be determine who loses the mask. Like, in other words, Atlantis and Atlantis Jr. cannot take each other's mask no matter what, because you can only face your partner in the mask versus mask. So, but they could face each other in the tournament final, and you're saying Cubs doesn't think that they would do that. So,
right.
It's interesting. I mean, obviously you look at Atlantis and Fuerza Guerrera, and those are obviously guys who at this stage of their career would probably consider losing the mask for the right payoff in the right show. This is obviously the right show, which would have the right payoff. This is probably going to sell out, I would think, because they've been doing some solid business. And that Cibernetico show may have sold out. I don't know if it did, but I know that there was 10,000 people there. I know it was a 5-figure. So you figure that this show will do better than that show. So it has a chance to sell out.
For sure. But and Cubs does bring up a good point about this, that if you're gonna take Atlantis' mask, would you want to do it in a tournament, or would you want to say, buy these fucking tickets because you might see Atlantis lose his mask? Like, now there's the idea that, hey, in this tournament Atlantis might lose his mask, and maybe people are buying the ticket on the assumption that, hey, wow, Fuerza Guerrera or Atlantis might lose their mask here. But if you're going to take Atlantis' mask, or hell, to that Fuerza Guerrera in that same way too, that's something that you probably just want to say, hey, tickets are going to be X amount of dollars or whatever, and it's going to happen in 3 months, you know what I mean, or 2 months, or in that's going to be the match. It's going to be Atlantis. So you have a 50% chance of seeing Atlantis get unmasked. Here, there's the idea that he might get unmasked, but maybe you really want to blow that out. When it's time to unmask Atlantis, that you're going to really want to blow that out, advertise it, and sell as many seats for as much as you possibly can, because that's one of the biggest things that you can do.
Well, Averno and Ultimo Guerrero, they've been feuding, but I feel like that I'd be disappointed if it was a hair match in the final. That would
suck.
Me.
Yeah, that would suck a little bit. I kind of feel like they're going that direction, though. I don't know. Where are you at with that?
They could. I mean, look, I'm not going to pretend that I've got my finger on the pulse here. I crash watched 2 months of this company in the last 2 days, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I have a finger on the booking pulse. It'd be hard enough even if I was paying attention a lot of times with this company. So I don't know. It could be one of the younger teams. Now, I would be pretty surprised just not that if Atlantis Jr. lost his mask at this stage, because don't they want him to be a big star moving forward with
I would
legendary
say,
Atlantis gimmick and mask?
Right, I would put him at the last. I'd put him possibly last among all these guys. That would just make no sense whatsoever. That'd be a beyond dumb booking decision at this point to take his mask away and take everything away that makes him Atlantis Jr. So I'm with you. I think he is absolutely the last person on this entire list that should be losing his mask.
But could they have him go to the final match? Because Stuka Jr. is kind of like this mid-card veteran guy who could lose his mask, right?
Right. And then when again, if that happens, that's like the star-making performance of all. I mean, this guy goes through this tournament, goes to the main event of an anniversary show, and takes a guy's mask. And,
yeah,
I mean, but he's worth it. I think if you're going to do it, fuck it, go for it.
I think that's what I'm going to go with. I think.
Yeah, I like
because
that too.
Talking myself through that. If you want to make a star, and it would be dramatic because I think people obviously wouldn't want to see him lose his mask in that scenario. And he gets to work the main event of an anniversary show and take a mask. If you're going to rocket pack someone, I mean, that really is how you do it.
Yeah. And Stuka Jr., no offense to him, but it's like he'd be fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the guy looks like, but he's probably fine. like where's he at now? You know what I mean? Like it's not going to be that big of a difference if he doesn't have his mask. At least I don't think anyone's like, going to be crying and going, "Oh my God, they took Stuka Jr.'s mask." Oh my God. So I'm with you. I think you look at what's going to be best for Atlantis Jr. moving forward, and him main eventing an anniversary show and taking a mask is definitely that.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with that with my totally uneducated hypothesis here of this, but it's an interesting concept for a tournament, kind of doing it in reverse and having the enemies teaming together, and they've got to work together if they want to screw the other guy over.
And they coexist.
The end, so.
We're doing coexist angles, but this works a little bit better. I like the way that this is done. So
yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. So anyway, that's what the show will be built around. And when is this? This is on...
that is going to be September 16th. September 16th.
So Friday.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And you'll be bouncing around Ireland with Alan Cunningham and Trevor the Irish Wrestling Fan.
Yep.
Isle of Man guy. And I'll be here in some form next week reviewing this show. So but I have to say that my crash watch the last 2 days has me excited about it now, and I really enjoyed literally everything I saw. So a drastic change from the pandemic era of CMLL and the crowds, and maybe it's just watching so much Japanese wrestling with clap crowds and whatnot but I really think these crowds, I mean, you watched too. That was a hot crowd.
Oh, they were insane. Yeah, they were insane for every single guy. And like you said, the wrestlers knew it, and they decided to make sure that they had a spot in every single part of that Cibernetico where they could, pose in front of the crowd or directly have the crowd react to them in some way, shape, or form. They knew this crowd was red hot, and this crowd was apoplectic for Tiger Mask and Volador Jr. You know what I mean? They were the final two guys with Volador and Tiger Mask, and they're going nuts. They're going insane for the near falls. And Tiger Mask has a roll up, and it's like, oh crap, he's gonna win. And then Volador kicks out, and they explode like 10,000 people all at once. I mean, yeah, it was a hell of a hot crowd here. So they were definitely letting out a lot of angst out in this night and just like getting really excited about this. But it was clear it was a hot crowd for sure, a really, really hot crowd. So I'm interested to see what this anniversary show crowd sounds like too. So
why don't you read the rest of these matches, Rich?
Oh, I am not even going to try. There are some names I've never heard of that I'm not even going to begin to start to try to pronounce. So I'm ready to move on if you want to, but if you want to say these names, knock yourself out. I do not want to embarrass myself. So
Dolce Gardenia, you can't, Espirito Negro.
I can do that.
Look at that. You hear the tongue roll? Espirito Negro.
Yeah, that's not bad. Well, Chris Zellner.
Ray Cometa against Arcalis, Guerrero Maya Jr. and Stigma. Okay, and then we've got Negro Casas, who we just talked about, Star Jr. and Titan against Euphoria, Hechicero, and Mephisto. That's the Rudos Trios that we were talking about earlier, and they had that great match against each other, Hechicero and Euphoria. Mystico is taking on Angel de Oro and Volador Jr. This is a three-way match, and this is some kind of tournament, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you crash watched more of it than I did. I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's some weird block tournament going on, the Copa Independent,
and the three, and it's a three-way final because some kind of tie at the top of one of the blocks or something like that. Or is it? Are they facing?
You know what? I think we actually have. Yeah, I think this is an out of date card. I think
so we have a winner in that block now.
Right.
Who is it?
Yeah. Let me see. Let me go to old voices of wrestling.com to see what we got here. One moment. I will tell you one thing that we can fill the time with.
Yeah.
Rainbow Raw, rest in peace. They're going back to the black and gold, baby.
We speculated that, and it's like, and he denied, and Levesque denied it, and he denied it. He downplayed that idea, but you had to know that was coming. I mean, you had to know that was coming. So, who broke that? What's that?
Let's see. The second spot went to. Oh, thank you, CMLL. Who broke this? Oh, sorry. Who broke this? WWE themselves. They said constantly evolving, and then they tweeted out it said loading, and it showed the 2.0.
Wait a minute. Constantly evolving, and you go backwards?
Look. Take it up with Paul, all right?
So is he going to bring back the metal music?
Poppy Raw will come back, finally.
And the skulls and the fucking iron crosses imagery and the fucking birds and all this other shit. He's going full black and yellow?
I don't know. He's going gold. I don't know what's next. We'll see. We'll see what's next. But
Rainbow Raw stunk.
How bad was Rainbow Raw? Remember that first episode of Rainbow Raw?
Oh, my God.
Tony D'Angelo. Hey, I'm Tony D'Angelo. I'm part of the outfit. It's like, oh God, what are we doing here?
That's a great Tony
because it's so bad. It's like baby's first Italian, impression. Watches Godfather once, and
Yeah, I can't believe I'm going to ask you this because I know the answer already. But did you see a couple weeks ago when he was eating like the biscotti straight out of a Pepperidge Farms bag? You knew it was like. It just looked like the shittiest, you know what I mean? And he's like eating it with his fucking cappuccino and then like fucking, who's the Trevor Lee? What's fucking, he hasn't been Trevor Lee in 6 years.
No, every time we preview NXT, I never know what his name is. And right now I have no fucking
Cameron Grimes.
Cameron Grimes, there we go.
So I'm sure he's named after Cameron Indoor Arena, right? Isn't he from North Carolina?
Oh yeah, I never made that connection. Yeah, probably. There you go.
Anyway, yeah, Rainbow Raw fucking stunk. The whole imagery, the way it looked on TV.
Yo, kids, how you doing? I'm Vic Joseph, and
it's going to be off the hook. It's going to be off the chain.
We're rolling up our sleeves for another great hour of professional wrestling. Yeah,
it's on and popping.
It was so dorky.
Oh my God, awful. We're
gonna give you a lot of bad wrestlers and some hot women. So there you go. Enjoy. But it's now over, apparently. So, all right. So, in perfect Lucha Libre fashion, no, they Volador Jr. and Angelo Del Oro, they went to a double countout. So,
it's still a three-way.
They're still a three-way, yeah. So they went to a double countout. Right. They just couldn't possibly decide who to have win, so they went to a double countout. So,
then would have got a ladies' mask match here.
Yes, yeah.
Jero Chita versus Reina Isis. You want to break that one down for me, Rich?
I'd love to, but we got other topics to get to. So,
Yeah, we are short on time. I had a lot of notes and I plan to really get in depth on this match between these two ladies that I'm not sure I've ever seen wrestle in my life. But we do have to move on.
Yeah,
but
I unfortunately do not know who either of these people are, so I have nothing to.
I'm sure Cubs has a great preview, though.
Oh, absolutely.
On the site.
Yeah, fantastic. So, VoicesOfWrestling.com for that great preview. But that is not the only company celebrating an anniversary this weekend. All Japan Pro Wrestling has their 50th anniversary coming up this weekend as well. We also have a preview up at VoicesOfWrestling.com. Gerard, co-host of the Emerald Flow Show here on the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network, has a great preview for you there over at VoicesOfWrestling.com. And it sounds like a pretty exciting show. Things look cool. Everything's set. But just wait. It is not live on AllJapanProWrestling.tv. Instead, it's on BSTV, which I think you can sign up for and you can get. But if you are a All Japan TV subscriber and going, hey, yeah, here we go, 50th anniversary show, you're going to be sorely surprised. You're going to have to wait till September 22nd to get the show on that service. But it is on BSTV, and I believe Gerard does include some basic instructions if you do want to sign up for BSTV to watch the show. But what do you think of the All Japan 50th anniversary show? Anything that sticks out to you before we go kind of match by match here?
So I reached out, had some conversations today. What you're going to want to watch here. Now, look, we've got Suwama versus Kento Miyahara in the main event, and it's going to be Jake Lee and Naoya Nomura, and the winner of that's going to get the title shot the next day, right, on the They're going to do back-to-back Triple Crown championship matches, if I'm understanding this correctly. So Nomura, it was supposed to be Joe Doring in that match, but Joe Doring is having obviously another bout with the cancer. So they brought Nomura, who they've been using sporadically, and they very badly want to get back into the company. We've talked about that a couple of times. But they'll bring him in to face Jake Lee. Suwama versus Kento Miyahara in the main event. Tiger Mask with this junior title match with Atsuki Aoyagi. So we'll see how much longer that Tiger Mask and Yuji Nagata are going to be around. So Tiger, when they finish up and go back to New Japan, that's when Tiger Mask will probably drop that title. There's a tag team title match with Shotaro Ashino and Honda defending against your boys from Get Wild, Rich, Takeo Omori.
I'm excited. Get Wild. My guys. I'm excited.
Yeah, and then, of course, they got to drag out the old dudes because it's the 50th anniversary. So we've got, Fuchi and Onita they're bringing in, and Shiro Koshinaka, who kind of just sits by the phone and waits for these anniversary shows.
Yeah, he's got a nice little business going, though. He
can throw his hip attacks, and they're facing Great Kojika, Yoshiaki Yatsu, and Masao Inoue. As we noted earlier, Christopher Daniels is on this show. He's facing Yuma Aoyagi. We've got Hokuto Omori versus Minoru Suzuki. So they're really pulling out the stops here to bring in Minoru Suzuki in. The All Asia, the Voodoo Murder stuff, which I have no use for.
Yeah, I might skip that match. That sounds awful.
They're facing Hikaru Sato and Dan Tamura. The Sayoto brothers triumphant return match, Rich.
Oh, and who could forget their excursion, man? I mean, that's. I guess this is a good opportunity. How much time do we have left in the show?
Did
so
you
we got
see
about
any
an
of their...
hour. So yeah, let's talk about their excursion. Which, I mean, what was your favorite match, favorite moment? Just one, maybe, just to be a little more concise, since we have some other topics. So
I think Rich is being sarcastic. Did you see any of their matches from their excursion?
I saw. I think it was MLW, right? I saw they were in MLW for a little bit. I'm trying to remember.
How'd they look?
They're not that good. They weren't good in All Japan either. So I don't know. I don't think they're. Think they still have a ways to go for sure. So.
Well, they're teaming with our boy Cyrus, and they're taking on Twin Towers and Yukio Naya, and then we've got some openers: Yoshitatsu Tajiri and Mitsuya Nagai, and ATM versus Izanagi, Black Menso Ray Sushi, and Andy Wu, our boy Andy Wu.
Andy Wu, yep.
And then the openers, Rising Hayato and Ryo Inoue versus Shusuke Kodama and Oji Shiiba. But I did skip a match because this is the match I want to talk about. And that is Yuji Nagata versus Yuma Anzai. So Yuma Anzai, they think, can legitimately be a legitimate top star. And from what I was told today, New Japan wanted this guy very badly. Yuji Nagata wanted to bring this guy to the New Japan dojo very badly. Suwama sort of won the power struggle to get the guy in. He's got good height. They say he's very good looking. And if he has, and he's obviously he's an amateur wrestler, so Yuji Nagata was very excited about that idea as well. But he's part of he either went to the same college or the same university or was in the same university wrestling team that Suwama once wrestled for, and Jumbo Tsuruta. They're going to try to push him as the next Jumbo Tsuruta. They're very high on this guy. As I said, Yuji Nagata wanted to bring him to New Japan. When All Japan won sort of the battle to bring him in, Yuji Nagata pushed and angled himself to work the date. Yuji Nagata loves this guy. He wanted to work his debut match with him. So keep an eye on this dude. And if he does work out, this is obviously exactly what All Japan needs. So the university connection with Suwama seemed to be the deciding factor for this dude. So he's going to be Suwama's pet project. And, the next decade of All Japan could be determined with whether this guy takes or not. But I'm told that he is a legitimate, real, keep an eye on level prospect. So that's why I saved that match for last. And this is someone that everyone should be watching very closely on this show. And Yuji Nagata is going to do probably everything in his power to make sure that the kid looks really good here. I mean, he's going to lose, obviously, but keep an eye on this dude. And he's very important to the future of All Japan.
Yeah, I know in Gerard's preview and Voice of Wrestling, he mentions that, every wrestler talks about how handsome he is, and they're starting to already kind of tweet about him, about, he's handsome, and he's 6'2", and he's got a good body, and he's got a little bit of this. So, it definitely feels like and I think they're having like a musical entrance to get him out to the ring. It's like they're going to have a live band play him out or whatever, a live singer play him out. So, like you said, they are rolling out the red carpet for this guy, and they need it. I mean, they more than anybody else, more than any other company, needs a young star to land big. So, I'm fascinated. I cannot wait to watch this. And we always say, like, one of the coolest things to do is get in on the ground floor of guys. We always talk about with Dragon Gate, like when you see those early match guys, you see them slowly rise up and rise up and rise up. You get it with the Young Lions in New Japan, and you're going to get it now here with this guy in All Japan. But different than a lot of those other ones are like, hey, we have some high hopes of this guy and we'll see it through. They want this guy. They personally scouted and wanted this guy to land. So yeah, he's going to be a little bit of a different animal than a lot of these other, trainees, where they're going to put everything in their power to get him going and get him fired up. So I'm fascinated to see
and it's
how
a big score that they got him instead of
New
Japan.
New
Japan, Nagata was interested in him, and it's a big score for them. And, with this dude, and they believe in the Saito brothers, I think those guys are just unathletic, fucking just, I don't see much in them, but who knows? Maybe they can find a niche. And then, if they can get Nomura back in the mix, they desperately need an injection of fresh faces and fresh stars. Jake Lee is what he is. He's never ascending any higher than he is at this point. That's done. And it's just a rotating cycle constantly of Suwama versus Jake Lee versus Kento Miyahara in some kind of combination. Tsuji Ishikawa is now officially washed up, and I think he's done being pushed, and he knows it. And Kohei Sato is even more washed up than Ishikawa. And then really, they just don't have anybody else. They have a very small roster. It's just the same names at the top. So it would be big for them. Nomura, as we've discussed, I don't know if his heart is being a full-time wrestler anymore. He didn't want to be here to begin with. He disappears. He's working basically weekend shows for tiny indies. I mean, they would love to have him back, but I don't know that that's what he wants. It would be very helpful. But there's a ceiling on him, too, if we're being honest.
Right.
This guy, this Anzai, is someone who they really think has the potential to be a true difference-making star. And the Saito brothers, even though I think they're clumsy, unathletic, awkward dudes, I mean, they do have a lot of size. And maybe back from excursion, crazier things have happened. I mean, they do have a good look and they do have good size, and maybe they'll find a way to package them and get something out of them. But, it would be very helpful to All Japan, because it's just crazy to think that not that long ago, before Noah was purchased by Cyber Agent and all of that Noah and All Japan were kind of on equal footing. And Noah has just blown past them to the point where it's not even close anymore. And they were really on the same level for a long time, like, neck and neck.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were definitely times and years that, we were doing this show where Noah was below them, for sure. I mean, some of those.
Yeah, and Noah kind of took a shortcut by bringing in all the old veterans, and we know that that's just a Band-Aid, and it's a short-term fix, and there's really no future in that. And eventually those guys are going to...
infusion of cash definitely helped, too. I mean, getting
right. And the stable ownership.
Helped out a lot, yeah.
Absolutely. The stable ownership, and then kind of cutting the line by burying all your young guys with the established veteran names. And the question becomes, and I guess this is a good transition, to once Muto officially packs it in, and maybe a lot of the friends of Muto at that point will kind of slowly go away. Will those fans then go away too? Because what we've been warning about, you haven't properly established the next generation. Will these fans who came to see Muto and maybe some of his pals, do they believe in Keito Kiyomiya now? Because he does a Shining Wizard, and because he finally overcame Muto? Those are questions that will be answered. Once all of those guys are finally gone. Or did all of these 50-year-olds beating Kiyomiya and Nakajima and Kano like a drum, did that do the damage that we suspected it may have? That when the real stars go away, a story we've seen play out over and over the years in pro wrestling, that they'll say, oh, there's no real stars here anymore, so we're not going to buy tickets. And let's be honest, while Noah's is much stronger right now than All Japan, it's not like they're blowing the doors off. I mean, they got to a certain level, and they do some nice little houses at times, but it's, it's not like they're knocking on the door of New Japan. Okay, so we'll see what happens when Muto packs it in. So I guess that's a good transition to the Muto news, which is, they put 100,000 and 500,000 yen seats for sale, and they all sold out. So those 500,000 yen tickets for Muto's retirement, Tokyo Dome, translates to about $3,500 in U.S. money. So the ticket prices are, outrageous, but they've sold all the most expensive seats. So the story behind this is that the Muto retirement, New Japan was interested in the show, but then completely lost interest at the price tag in order to secure it, which explains the high ticket prices. So Cyber Agent, won the rights to the show, but they have to charge these prices to cover the cost. And also Muto worked a percentage of the gate into it as well. So he's going to make out like a bandit, okay? Because he put the show out to the highest bidder. He's getting a piece of the gate. And that explains, that's one of the two reasons why the tickets are so expensive. Number one, they have to be that expensive to turn a profit on the show.
Right, because they're giving a chunk to somebody else.
Yeah, and, had to win like a bid to fucking host it to begin with. And number two, as we've seen, they're going to be able to sell them anyway. This is a huge retirement. I mean, and I hope this is more along the lines of Tenryu or Liger, where it's real. Because this would be the carniest move of all out of this guy if like he comes back a year after this, after shaking down Cyber Agent, to this 2-year contract and now this retirement gimmick with the 6 matches and this show, which, is not guaranteed to even make money with these ticket prices because they still got some work to do and they got to put some more, and they probably will put a ton of people in that building. This really is a huge event for this guy, for Keiji Muto, hanging him up. I know we've been critical of his politicking and his in-ring, but it's still Keiji Muto, and it's still one of the biggest retirements that Japan will ever see in terms of a retirement match of this magnitude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a guy who's been a prominent figure we've kind of debated his current drawing level and all that sort of stuff, but this guy's been a prominent figure in Japanese wrestling and in the greater wrestling world now for, almost 40 years at this point, quickly approaching 40 years for his time. Certainly 30 plus and played a huge role. What makes him special more than a lot of other guys that he played a role in almost all of the major companies at some point. Obviously coming up in New Japan, leaving, going to All Japan, kind of resurrecting All Japan when it looked like they were on death's door, and then now obviously jumping on or help doing Wrestle One and all that sort of stuff, and then also now jumping into Noah. So he's had tentacles in every major Japanese wrestling promotion for a while, and that's a lot of other guys, spent their entire career with one company or only with All Japan or only with New Japan or whatever, but he's got tentacles every single way. So if you're a fan of any of those promotions, you've watched him at some point, wrestle. So it's a huge retirement. It's one of the big guns, retiring. It matters. Those sort of things matter. I'm with you though. I really, especially these people paying, almost, 500,000 yen for these seats. I really hope that they are seeing truly, his final match, and it's not just, he comes back in a year or something like that. So that would suck.
I mean, the payoffs are going to be enormous, for him and probably some of the other tippy top guys. All the other promotions are angling to get people on the show because they know this is going to be a big show. So I know that there's probably going to be 0-1 talent on the show. Big Japan, I know that Muto wants Daishi Hashimoto on the show, which makes a lot of sense. If you remember, first of all, the connection to Hashimoto, number one. And number two, they were going to wrestle at a Wrestle Kingdom a number of years ago, and Daishi Hashimoto broke his arm. But anyway, and who knows how Hashimoto's career could have went if he worked that. That's one of my big what ifs in Japanese wrestling. Like if Daichi Hashimoto works that Wrestle Kingdom and doesn't break his arm, does he then catch on with New Japan? Does his career go a completely different direction? Right? I guess we'll never know. But 0-1, obviously Big Japan. New Japan wants a presence on the show because it's Muto and because it's his retirement and everything. And you'll probably see some other promotions get in the mix as well because, it's Muto and it's a good chance to send talent that you want exposed to eyes that normally wouldn't see talent and all those sorts of things. So, it's going to be a huge show. And it has a chance to draw it's funny because it has a chance to draw very well. And even with these ticket prices, there's concern.
Still not make money for Noah.
Yeah. I mean, the money's going to Muto, but based on how quickly those super expensive tickets sold, I would think they're not going to have much trouble at all selling the rest of the tickets. I mean, this could be one of the biggest. This could potentially challenge Wrestle Kingdom for total number of tickets sold. And we'll probably do a bigger gate. I mean, if it does have the same neighborhood, because Wrestle Kingdom's not going to have $4,000, tickets. So, it's like we said last week. I think Noah has made some very good moves over the last month or so. Keito Kiyomiya wins the N1, which was absolutely the correct move. If you truly do expect to push him coming off the Muto win, he had to win this tournament. And the final match was excellent, and Hideki Suzuki did business the right way and all those things. It wasn't like he beat Hideki Suzuki and then Hideki Suzuki showed him up the way that Funaki did earlier in the tournament. He did business the right way. And now they secured this show, which can end up being, one of the biggest gates in Japan in a number of years at the end of the day.
So we got plenty of time. Obviously, that is not until February, right? Keiji Muto retirement. So we'll be covering it obviously as we approach a little bit closer. But February 2023 at Tokyo Dome. So we got plenty of time there. But interesting to see those tickets already kind of going. Real quickly, while we're in Japan, I just wanted to touch on this Taka Taichi Despi Mania Taka Michinoku debut 30th anniversary show from JTO September 12th. The main event. Excuse me, sorry.
So it's Taka's 30th anniversary and Taichi's 20th, right?
Yes, there you go.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
El Desperado, Jun Kasai. I didn't watch anything else on the show. It's an interesting looking show from top to bottom. I don't know that I'm going to watch everything else on there, but I did watch El Desperado and Jun Kasai. And Joe, this is a match definitely go out of your way to check out. I know a lot of people really, really love this match. I've seen a lot of match of the year buzz from people that I do trust and people that I do, and I get it. There's a certain segment of fan that is going to think this is the match of the year, and I get it. I totally do. It's not that for me, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't awesome. It was still really, really good. El Desperado was fantastic in it. Jun Kasai, there's a lot of people that love Jun Kasai that think like Jun Kasai is like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. That's not me, and I don't think it's you either on Jun Kasai. He's fine. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't dislike Jun Kasai matches, but I don't go out of my way to check them out. But I thought he was solid in this match, but I thought Desperado was great. It's very well structured. It is deathmatch, so keep that in mind. Obviously, there's mask ripping, there's bleeding, there's deathmatch, setting up for deathmatch spots or whatever. And ultimately, that always has a limit for me. There's always going to be kind of there. Very few death matches really reach a super, super high level for me. Takeda did a few times, watching him in his prime, but more times than not, I'm just kind of like, I don't know, But this one does have a lot of emotion, a lot of good stuff into it. But ultimately, there is always a ceiling with me in death matches. So with that said, I'm still like 4.25, 4 flat on it, somewhere right in between there. I think you will enjoy it as well, but definitely recommend if people have been hearing a lot about that match. One to definitely check out El Desperado versus Jun Kasai from September 12th. Taka Taichi Despi Mania.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. Jun Kasai does nothing for me, but I'm not a deathmatch guy, so I'm not a huge fan of the Crazy Monkey. But I'll give it a shot. Did you ever get around to the Despi John Moxley death match?
I did. Yeah. That
how does it compare to that?
I think I like this one a little bit better. That one was good. I think I like this one a little bit better. There's a little bit more. It's Jun Kasai, and he's a little bit more nuts, and that tends to help his matches a little bit. You know what I mean? When he enters that zone where you're like, this motherfucker is gonna kill himself. Like, you get that, and you get that in this match too. And there's a little nods that I think you'll like in this match a little bit more than Moxley and Despy. Moxley and Despy was very, very good. This match I liked a little bit better though.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely watch it. Sometimes with these death matches, and definitely with Kasai, it sometimes reaches a point, not where I would say, like, grossed out isn't the right phrase, because I'm not really grossed out. It's more of, I'm just like, okay, this is excessive. I don't need scissor spots and guys laying on razor boards, and this is just dumb now. And oftentimes Kasai crosses that line with me.
Right. And some people love it. And for some people, that's the reason why they love him, is that
of course. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they want all that gratuitous violence and blood and all that. And that has never done a thing for me.
Right.
I mean,
I'm the same way. It's like, and it's not, like you said, I'm not grossed out. I'm just kind of like, all right. Like, I don't know. I get it. I get it. I understand what you're going for here, but like, I don't know. You got anything else? What else do you have for me? So,
and what Takeda would do is he would wrestle around the deathmatch spots, and that's why when he was on that great run in like 2018 or whatever it was, that his matches were really landing with me. But when it's just straight up gore, I guess it just never does a thing for me. So I will approach it with an open mind, but this is decidedly not my style of wrestling. So, we'll see. I mean, I thought that the Moxley Despy match was pretty good. It was all right. They're such talented guys. I'd rather just see them not do that.
Right. I'd rather see them brawl. I just rather see them have a brawl or a good match.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with most death matches. It's like, I just rather watch wrestling. There's so much wrestling to watch and so much good wrestling to watch that I don't know. And again, it works for some people. I get it. I understand it. And there's times where it's really landed with me. And there's times where I love deathmatch wrestling, but there more times than not, I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Like, I'd rather just watch guys wrestle. I don't know. That's just me. So.
Yeah, I'll check it out though. I
think it toes a good line between a good match that just happens to be a death match. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what Takeda I think always did pretty well, and that's why I always kind of vibed with his top tier stuff. Is that it felt like a good wrestling match that just so happened to be a death match, and this has some of those vibes as well. It doesn't feel like the whole match is dependent on them doing them going through a glass board or them going through a razor or whatever. It's part of the match, but it's not. There's more to it than just that. Is probably the best way I can describe it.
Well, I got to get to that, and I'll probably write it up. I got to get to this. I've been sitting on this Gary J versus Jeremy Wyatt match from the Dingo Invitational, St. Louis Anarchy. I've been meaning to watch that and review it for months now. I got that sitting in the queue. I got a couple Australian matches that I've been meaning to get to, so I think I'll package them all together sometime this week behind the paywall. That will be on the $10 tier because that'll be written content. But I will try to review that sometime this week. I have this, for some reason, this Cibernetico and Charlie Rockstar versus Flamita and Emperador Azteca match saved for some reason.
Okay.
I guess I'll fucking watch that too. And lump that in. I must have saved it for a reason. People send me shit and they're like, you need to watch this, and then I will save the match, and then months later I'll forget who sent it, why they sent it, and but I'll usually watch them and review them anyway. So if you're listening and you sent me that, remind me why the fuck you sent me that. But because on paper it doesn't look like something that I would have saved on my own.
Yeah,
so,
I'm very curious what that match was. Yeah, do you have a fat finger maybe? Save that one when you meant to save another match, or hey, who knows? Maybe there's something really incredible in that match that.
I don't know.
It's possible. It's not impossible, right?
Demonic Flamita, right?
Right. Yeah, it seems unlikely, but not impossible that there's something interesting with that one. So while we're on the topic of Japan, this is going on mostly in America, but I wanted to bring this up real quick. Chris Dickinson in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So last month at their Fighting Spirit Unleashed tapings in Hollywood. I don't think these have aired yet. Dickinson made a surprise return to the company. He attacked Fred Rosser after Rosser defeated TJP. Got a little bit of a backlash because he came in unannounced. Nobody knew that he was going to be there. And obviously, given his we're not going to get into it, here, but given the allegations that were brought about to Dickinson. Some people felt kind of, like, shit, if you're going to put this guy on a show, like, at least tell us he's going to be on the show so that if we don't want to go, we don't have to go, or we don't have to, we can show you that we're not that excited about it, him coming in by, not going to the show or not buying a ticket or whatever. He makes a surprise return there. And the feedback did not seem to deter them at all because he returned once again this weekend. Not going to spoil the match itself, but he and Rosser had a match at Autumn Action as well. So what do you make of New Japan's process and kind of bringing him back, secret surprise, and then sort of bringing him back then a month later to have the match with Rosser?
Well, this is pure speculation on my part, okay? But it feels to me like they may have a specific amount of dates contractually with him, and they might be trying to burn off the dates. And the reason I say that is he wrestled that Tanahashi match right around the time that the initial allegations came out, right?
Correct, yes.
And he's alleged...
I think the allegations came out, and then he wrestled that weekend, and then even more came out, and that was kind of when he went away. So I think he wrestled it with the allegations kind of happening that same weekend.
Yeah, and at that point, New Japan just went forward with the match because the allegations were new. He did... excuse me. He did pull off a Game Changer show that same weekend or around that same weekend, I think. It was a deal where he claimed he was pulling off the show. We all know that they told him you know what I mean? Like he publicly, it was the old let the manager resign instead of saying he's fired kind of deal. But he worked the Tanahashi match and then he didn't get booked again for New Japan for ages. And then he came out with his lawsuit against his accusers. And in that lawsuit, he mentions the New Japan contract. He mentions that these accusations, which he claims are false, are costing him money because he now has a worthless contract with, I don't know if he named New Japan. Yeah, I think he did name New Japan.
I believe he did. Yeah, New Japan was specifically named in that.
Saying the contract is now worthless because they're not booking him. And that would imply that it's a per date deal, right? Because if it was just a salary, it wouldn't be worthless. He'd be getting paid whether he was booked or not. So that indicates he's on a per date deal. And I think, and then after that lawsuit came out, all of a sudden he pops up on New Japan Strong and shoots the angle with Rosser and then comes back on the next taping and does the match with Rosser. So my personal speculation is he did the Tanahashi match because it was all fresh and new and he was already advertised. So they let him do that match. Then he disappears. Then the lawsuit comes out and New Japan may have said to themselves, you know what? This guy's getting litigious. He's taking the tact of, I'm going to fucking sue everybody. He names us by name in the lawsuit, says that the contract is worthless. So if New Japan owes him some dates contractually, they might be thinking, you know what? It might be best to just book this dude, burn off these dates, and then wash our hands of him once we're no longer tied to him contractually. Now, again, that's just me speculating. And if I was going to burn off dates on a guy just to get him off of my hands, well, Rosser is the top guy in New Japan Strong, and he's the champion. So why not job him on the way out and have him lose to your top guy, right?
Right.
So that would make a lot of sense from that perspective. I know a lot of people, when I brought that up, have said, no, well, you would just put him in there with like dark matches or against, a prelim matches or something. And it's like, well, I mean, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is we're in this situation. The guy has some name value. Let's have him job to our top guy. I could totally understand that mindset.
Right. And it's a little scuzzy and it is the wrestling business. So it is a little scuzzy, but the idea too may be that, okay, look, everybody fucking hates this guy's guts now. Let's have him go and attack our guy. You know what I mean? Like if he's going to be a heel, everyone's going to hate him.
Yeah. He's going to get heat anyway.
I mean, or it sucks, but that's wrestling, man. You know what I mean? Like that's
or if the guy's if you're already scared that he might come after you legally, if you try to just book him in like dark matches or meaningless bouts or something, he might like call it might be less trouble just to book him in real matches so he's happy and then burn off the contract. But the flip side to all of this is we may be giving New Japan far more credit than they deserve. They might just not care. They might just have let the time pass, and maybe they saw that he filed this lawsuit and maybe they're thinking, all right, well, he wasn't arrested and he doesn't seem to be in any legal trouble and there's no legal reason we can't use him. And maybe New Japan just doesn't give a fuck. You know, they obviously had continued to book other people who had similar, speaking out style allegations, and they continue to do so. So maybe that's what this is too. I don't know. But it just seems fishy to me that they seemingly washed their hands of the guy. He names them in the lawsuit. He brings up their specific contract in the lawsuit, and then all of a sudden they start booking him again.
Right.
It's a little weird to me. Now, should they book the guy sort of in this, cloak and dagger way where he's not announced beforehand? No, they shouldn't do that. We've been down this road before. If you want to book these people who are controversial in any way, whether it be these types of allegations or anything else that might be off-putting to a customer, I've said this, and it might be controversial in itself, but I feel like as long as you advertise the person, you're giving the consumer the choice.
Right.
And at that point, as a consumer, you could say, well, fuck that. I am not putting $1 towards a company or a promotion that's going to be booking this person, and I'm not contributing any of my money to this guy's salary. At least you can make that choice. But if you don't announce someone, I mean, that comes across very sleazy, because it's almost like you're saying, we know that people might not buy a ticket or support us if they knew this guy was on the show.
Right, so we're going to sneak him in through the back door. We're not going to tell you he's there, and then he's going to be there just because we wanted to book him anyway.
And that's horseshit.
Yeah.
And that's horseshit. And there's people who might say, well, no, you just shouldn't book any of these people. And that's fine. I understand that too. But I feel at least if these people are on the fucking poster and you're telling people they're going to be there, well, at that point, now as a consumer, you can make your choice. And the free market will dictate what happens from there. But by not saying anything, and now this is twice in a row. Now, the first time it was a surprise attack. But again, maybe you shouldn't do surprise attacks with people like this.
Right, with people, yeah, with that particular guy, it might not
maybe
be the
that
best
takes
move.
away that angle for this particular guy, right? Or you can have him and say, you could even say, even if he doesn't have a match, Chris Dickinson will also be appearing, like Gabe used to do, also appearing, and there's like 10 names.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't booked the matches yet, right? Like, you could say also appearing, Chris Dickinson. All right. Maybe it spoils the sneak attack later, but some things are more important than your goofy wrestling angle. And there's no excuse to not have announced him for this one, because you already shot your angle and set up the match that you just did. There's no reason not to announce. So now you have to assume they're just being sleazy. And remember, this was the same offshoot promotion that tried to sneak Marty Scurll through the back door and shot an angle with him.
Right. Until all
and
the
rumor was
please stop.
Well, yeah, the rumor was they shot an angle with him and Moxley. And that's the rumor. No one knows because the tape never. And the other, and that, which means he was going to be a top guy. He was going to be feuding with Moxley. And the other wrestlers on the show were like, this is unacceptable. We don't want him around. But see, I think a lot of fans are giving those other wrestlers too much credit. Some of them might have their morals in the right place and be like, no, we don't want to. Yeah, we didn't know he was going to be here.
Some of them are still doing MMA training with him every single week, and you see pictures of it.
Yeah, and some of them, it's just, and some of them, I don't have any doubt, it's just self-preservation. They don't give a fuck what Marty Scurll did. They don't really give a fuck about Marty Scurll, but what they do care about is being on the same show as Marty Scurll and getting residual kickback as a result. So to me, before you start throwing roses at some of these people, consider that a lot of this is simply self-preservation. And they may not genuinely care whether they're on a show with him. It might just be, well, I don't want to be attached to a show with him because I don't want to get any residual heat, brother. So anyway, that's neither, but that's just, if they were willing to book Scurll as a surprise, now to be fair, that was pandemic and there were no fans. So that dynamic's a little different too, because they didn't sneak him in with fans in the building.
Right.
Okay, but they snuck him in. Apparently, a lot of the talent wasn't aware he was there either. Because
yeah.
So now this is fans, and there's really no excuse the second time, because again they shot the angle, so you know you're going to do the match. So I would have like way less of a problem with this if they announced Chris Dickinson, Fred Rosser's happening on the show.
Right, and then those fans that if you feel obligated and say, hey, you know what, I'm not a fan of New Japan. I'm not going to a show that he's going to be on. I'm not supporting New Japan. I'm not, whatever.
Yeah.
Then
I'm going to cancel my New Japan World. Right, whatever.
Then you're given that option to do that. Whereas this, it's ambiguous enough where you're like, well, maybe they learned their lesson from the first time. And then you show up to this autumn, and then he's there at that show, and you're like, all right, dude, like, come on, you know what I mean?
And they're going to try to hide behind, like, the fact that some of the matches from the previous taping haven't aired. Maybe the angle didn't air.
Sure.
So there's all that continuity stuff that they can hide behind. But the bottom line is, to me, that's not a concern. To me, you need to have you look, these things are all gray and the lines are where they are, but it's kind of like, when someone you're booking falls into the category of people should know ahead of time. I mean, there's no standard, there's no specific rule for this, but it's like the old obscenity saying, like, it when you see it, right? When one of these guys is someone who you should be announcing ahead of time.
Right.
And he falls into that category right now with the allegations that are out there.
Yeah, ongoing litigation and stuff like that. It seems very messy.
It comes across dirty, and you can hide behind the continuity of the show and all this and that. But at the end of the day, it's bullshit. Put his name on the poster and take the heat. Take the heat. And then, again, I can't really argue it because the consumer then at that point has a choice. So, or option B, you don't have to book the guy. Right. That's another option. But again, maybe they feel they're legally obligated to get through this contract. And that's something we won't know. They're not going to talk about it. No one's going to answer questions about it. But maybe they're afraid this guy's going to come after him unless they honor his deal, because technically he hasn't been charged with a crime. You know what I mean? They don't have any legal way to wiggle out of the deal.
Right. Unless
there's some language in the deal that has some kind of morality clause where they can claim that these kind of allegations, but who knows? This is all shit that we aren't privy to, and it would just all be speculation anyway.
So last two topics here are still, American Indies, since we were talking about New Japan Strong here. World of MLW obviously never stops, but it did stop for two men, Danny Limelight, Keiji Navarro, wrapping up with the company. Any thoughts on Limelight and Navarro?
I thought Keiji Navarro on the last, I don't know, you want to call it a season of MLW before they went on their last break, really impressed me, and he came across like a guy who was very much improved.
He's gotten a lot better. If you haven't watched Keiji Navarro in a while, I saw him in Alaska many weeks ago. But and then I've watched some of his other stuff. He has gotten a lot better, and he's still very young. I think. Let me get his exact age here in a moment. And again, you always say that, like, we judge these guys so early on in their careers, and it's like it might take a while for these guys to get good and get better. And he's 23 fucking years old. All right, so yeah, like we were watching him when he was 21. Not going to be a finished product at that point, but no. From what I've seen of him recently, he is improving rapidly. So I'm interested to see what's next for him.
Yeah, it's he really did look good on the last couple of tapings that he was on, and came across very well on TV. As far as Danny Limelight goes, I think he's still working strong regularly as part of Team Filthy. I think, but. He's a guy who, AEW stopped booking, and there's been a lot of dark Twitter rumors as to why, and basically, maturity issues and possibly an incident or two that weren't like, super, just things that it's like, look, we don't want this in our locker room right now. You need to do some growing up or some maturing, and then maybe we could, look at this, because he was doing well in AEW as kind of a guy on Dark and, a prelim guy, and then they just stopped using him out of nowhere. And then that's when the dark Twitter rumors started circulating. And, and then, he, after that, he had some nudes leak, and that's never a good look. And, he's a guy that on social media, he does things that major league wrestling companies are going to frown upon. It's like putting out tweets with, these thirst trap pics with dick prints. Like that's not going to endear yourself to.
Idea, yeah.
It's not a good, and it's the exact opposite behavior that, you need to exhibit to get back into a place like AEW or get into a place like WWE, which is a corporate environment, and they're not going to. And look, if dude wants to start a fucking OnlyFans and get into sex work, I will do the sex work clap to you. You do what you need to do, but you have to understand that when you go down those kind of roads, it does close certain avenues in the pro wrestling business when it comes to major league promotions on television, where you have to answer to networks and sponsors and all those things. And I don't know, man, he's a really talented guy. But that kind of stuff, I mean, just look at Marco Stunt. There is a clean line. You guys can look it up. There is a clean line from when he did those dildo spots with Effie on that show in, I believe, Indianapolis during the pandemic.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. There is a clean line between Marco Stunt doing that match with the dildos with Effie and the way he was booked and treated in AEW. And then eventually his contract was not renewed. You can look it up. He went from almost never appearing on Dynamite after that to almost never winning and just strictly being on Dark and then just kind of disappearing. And that is, look, there's almost a clean line. So that stuff is just frowned upon. And you can argue whether it should be or should not. Look, you can operate. Here's how you can approach this. You can operate in Twitter reality where everyone is sex positive and sex work is real work and nobody's a prude. Or you can operate in reality. And in reality, in the real world, that shit is frowned upon in corporate environments, by television networks, by sponsors, that people who run pro wrestling companies. You can complain about it, and you can go do that and live in Twitter reality and complain, and people will slap like on your little tweet. But there's a reality too here in play. And I think it's much better to exist in the real world where, and understand that some things just aren't going to fly. And that's just the way it is. And you can make all those, sex work clap tweets you want, but that's not reality is all I'm saying.
Right.
So,
and it could reflect poorly, and it could affect your career in ways that you might not.
Yeah. And, and nothing on Twitter is going to change that. It's, that's where,
saying I got 10,000 likes on Twitter doesn't, keep your job, unfortunately. So.
Yeah. I mean, so, it's, and look, so, it's Danny Limelight is a guy who, I think it would behoove him to, well, anyway, he doesn't want or need my advice, but, he's a talented guy who, should, if he wants to keep at it, and maybe he doesn't want to be a major league wrestler. I don't know.
Yeah, he might be cool with this life too. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he's okay, at the level he's at, and there might be more money for him to do other things. I don't know, but and I don't know why he's exiting MLW. Maybe he just he don't want to be there no more. That's
guys
a lot
come and
of
go.
people,
Guys come and go in the world of MLW. So
that world never stops, man.
It never stops. Guys are constantly in and out. So. Speaking of the world of MLW not stopping, last week they announced a new partnership with Range Sports. An article from Sports Illustrated's Justin Barrasso says, quote, in an effort to reach new heights, Major League Wrestling has partnered with Range Sports, a division of Range Media Partners. I know this is going to sound like a joke, but I assure you in a moment there might actually be some interesting stuff here, but go on. A division of Range Media Partners, which is best known for its success in film, television, and music, Range Sports is the newest addition to the powerful management company. It is led by Will Funk, the president of Range Sports, who has an extensive background in professional sports as well as experience with pro wrestling, acutely aware of the value of his content. Incredible sentence there. MLW CEO Court Bauer is full of optimism regarding this new sponsorship. With so much disruption in the content space, live sports are increasingly valued, Bauer says. Range has the resources to take Major League Wrestling to new heights by creating strategic partnerships that enrich and ensure our continued momentum. I hate everything that got said there. But here's some stuff we can pull out of this. Funk is actually a pretty big name. He was executive vice president at Warner Media, oversaw the NBA on TNT partnership, obviously a huge, massive partnership for both Turner and the NBA, played a key role in CBS and Turner acquiring March Madness, and he helped bring AEW to Turner Sports. And now here is the line that I thought was kind of interesting, and I'm curious if you read into this the same way that I did. In this piece, they talked to Funk about this, and he says about AEW coming to Warner, says, our biggest debate was whether it was actual sports content or entertainment. Ultimately, at the time, we decided it would live on the entertainment side. We weren't exactly sure how it would perform. There weren't a lot of lead-ins that made sense, so it was sort of on an island of its own. We put it on, and it did extremely well from the get-go. The proof is always in the numbers, and it kept gaining momentum and became one of the highest-rating non-sports programs on TNT. It continues to do phenomenally well. AEW did a great job creating a product people want to watch. So as far as disrupting the content delivery, strategic partners thing, Range Sports, I don't know if I have any thoughts on that or whatever. It's MLW, and they sign a lot of these deals. None of them go anywhere. But I did find that the name involved in this, Will Funk, who is a name that, you know, it was a pretty big deal at Turner, and specifically that last quote there about whether or not he and Turner saw AEW as sports or entertainment, and says ultimately at the time we decided it would live on the entertainment side. Do you find that interesting as much as I did?
Yeah, but that was 2019, so I don't know how that applies to today or how they view it today. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what to make of that.
It's strange, and it brings up an interesting question that you have to have with these networks and stuff, because we kind of always say, oh, well, you know, wrestling is live sports, or wrestling it's DVR proof, it's live sports, yada, yada, all that sort of stuff. And as these increases keep going on and keep going on and keep going on, it might become advantageous at some point for networks to, you know, look at wrestling and say, we don't want to pay sports pricing for wrestling. Like, you know, that bubble's not bursting anytime soon. And it's still going to cost billions of dollars to renew you and renew wrestling and do all that sort of stuff. We don't want to pay that sort of pricing for wrestling. So we're going to kind of consider you entertainment and pay you a decent amount of money. You know, you're still going to get paid a decent amount of money, but we're not paying you the money that we would pay the NBA or the NHL or MLB or whatever. And it might be an interesting thing where networks start to kind of, you know, with the increasing prices, start on their end of the you know, start saying, well, you know, we're not gonna pay that insane money or whatever for this stuff. Do you think that has a possibility of happening at any time soon?
I mean, it's hard to say.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, it's advantageous to have live sports. And we have live sports and it's live, but it's also expensive to have live sports on your network.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, for sure.
So is it a thing where they tell wrestling, you know, no, we don't really consider you guys sports. We consider you entertainment. So here's the offer we're giving you. Here's the money we're giving you. You know, yeah. Right. Like
from that standpoint, yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. It's
as those prices keep going up and up and up and up too.
But this guy's not with Turner. He's not with.
No, he's doing quotes. Moresso was asking him about his time at Turner here.
Right. So just to be clear for everyone listening, this guy is not with Discovery.
Right. No.
Or that company anymore. So what he was saying was in 2019, they were sort of slotting it in on the entertainment side, not the sports side. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting little nugget that came out of one of these MLW press releases that they seem to put out, you know, every 2 weeks or so.
They have more strategic partnerships than any other
pro wrestling company. So many strategic partnerships. More strategy than fucking Battleship. It's just, they're just, this man is loaded with strategy. I still can't find MLW anywhere on my TV.
I don't think I can either. I looked for it the other day.
So when I want to watch a little fusion, I got to go to YouTube. But, you know, there's a lot of strategic partnerships going on that, you know, are creating new avenues of alleged, you know, distribution that never seems to amount to anything. So I don't know. Like, just getting back to this press release itself in regards to MLW, what the fuck does any of that mean?
Nothing.
Like,
it's all just jargon and junk. Strategic partnership.
What's this company doing for them?
Disruption in the marketplace. Yeah, it's all.
How is that, whatever this is, making money for MLW? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, it's kind of the underpants gnome thing where it's like, okay, so how does it make money? Like, well, it's a strategic partnership and there's disruption. Okay, yeah, but like, what does this do? We can't answer that right now. So.
Yeah, what is this guy doing for MLW that wasn't being done before and is helping them make money? That's what I'd like to know.
Strategic partnership, Joe. Disruption in the content market.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. There'll be another one of these in 2 weeks. I don't know. I went through Danny Limelight's Twitter feed. It's clean.
Oh, okay. He took your advice. Clean. He took your advice already, instantly, quickly.
It only took 10 minutes.
Yeah. He said, you know what? He looked at it. This is disgusting. What am I doing here?
Nah, very wholesome. Very
wholesome
timeline.
All right. Yeah,
you know, so good for him. You know, it's talented guy. What else we got?
Alrighty here. Sorry, I'm trying to check into a flight here. Anyway.
Check into a flight.
You gotta do this. You know that.
You know what? The flight's tomorrow. Okay, the flight's tomorrow, number one.
Yeah, first off, you have to check in 24 hours prior.
Number two, this show that we're doing right now live on the air ends in like 5 minutes. You couldn't check into the flight in 5 minutes.
No, I'm trying. I mean, it was supposed to be easy, and now I gotta scan a passport and shit, so things have gotten a little wild here. So
Anxious Rich.
Scan the back of my passport. How's this even
They're gonna let you on the plane, man. Just show up.
Yeah, but I want to have a good seat, though, you know?
A good seat. There's no such thing as a good seat.
No, they all stink.
Are you flying first class?
I'm not flying first class. No.
And there's no such thing as a good seat.
You're right.
So it really doesn't matter. Now this is you're flying. It's a long flight. You're gonna get a meal here. You're gonna.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's at 10:30, so they might not feed us. It's at night.
10:30 at night. A little red eye.
Yeah, a little red eye. They're probably gonna give us a drinky poo and send us off to bed. So.
And you're traveling 6 hours forward in time. This is just like
correct. It's going to be, I'm showing up at 11 in Ireland, and I assume be greeted at the airport by Alan Cunahan, so excited for that.
It's just Back to the Future shit. I don't understand this time travel. It's just...
Yeah, you're like Shaquille O'Neal. You're like, I don't get it, man. Like, I get on a flight.
Yeah.
I get off. Yeah, that was the word when I did Italy was, and that's why people were like, "Oh, you can go to Japan. It'll be great." I'm like, dude, I went to Italy and I was fucked up we got on a plane at 8 a.m. and we got off at 8 a.m. and I was just like, "Fuck this! Like, this is weird as shit. I don't like this at all."
No. That's like if you fly backwards and you go over the international date line. It's like yesterday.
Oh yeah, dude. When we went to Iceland, right. I fucked up and I booked a rental car for the wrong day because I didn't know a day would pass. Like I got on it sometime and they're like, "Well, your rental was for yesterday and we gave your car away." And I'm like, "I know, I understand. I'm a dumb American. I clearly can't understand time zones and stuff. Like I fucked up. All right, what do you want to do?" And they gave me another car, but
yeah.
I was like, I didn't know the passage of time would occur while I was on this plane, and it did apparently. So okay, you know.
Yeah, I mean, if you could fly fast, if there was a device fast enough, and you could keep going over the international date line, could you keep traveling back in time, or how would that work?
Oh wow, whoa!
Like you break through.
There it is. I think that's a new show. Like,
can we book Neil deGrasse Tyson? Would he come on?
I think we can get him on, yeah.
I bet he would come on.
He's got Star Talk. He's got a podcast to plug. They got a Patreon. I'm sure he'd be interested in plugging that. So let me see if he needs a little help on the Star Talk Patreon. I listen to that show. It's a good show. All right.
Answer our stupid questions. That
right. That's what the show is, by the way. I don't know if you know that. You obviously know that.
Yeah.
There's a segment where there's a normal guy that gets questions brought in. And he's like, "All right, Neil. So what about?" And then he goes on for 25 minutes trying to explain it in a layman's terms, but of course he can't because at the end of the day, the guy's just like, "All right, I don't understand what you're talking about anymore." But yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
They have 2,015 patrons, but they could probably
we
got
some
to offer.
Of money.
We got some to offer to him, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do pretty well ourselves.
Yeah. So if he wants to...
what's his tier? How much is his cheapest tier?
Cheapest tier on Star Talk Radio is $3 a month.
What's he got? 2,100.
Yeah, 100. He does have a $50 or $500 tier where you can.
Nobody.
Look
buys
at this.
Those.
Join us in studio. Or remotely to ask Neil your cosmic queries. That's the
okay. Well, you listen to the show. How many times has he had a patron in the studio?
I have not heard a single person go onto the show. So
nobody buys those Hail Mary tiers. It's a waste of time. They just don't even bother. So is the $3 tier? Does that get you the basic show every week? Is that the deal?
I'm not a patron, to be honest. I'm just a normal.
He's pulling in $6,300 a month.
He's probably doing okay. Yeah,
that's an extra $75,000 a year for Mr. deGrasse Tyson, who I think is canceled, but that's okay because
I'm
that's
canceled right. Too. Yeah, he was.
That's
but
right.
It was a soft cancel, right? I think like.
Hey, I'm canceled too. He could come on the show.
Yeah, right. Come on, Neil. Let's go.
Who gives a shit? You know, once you're canceled, the pressure's off, man. Like they can't cancel you again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, now it's like fuck it. That's how you just let it fly now. So, you know, I'll bring him on. A little Star Talk, little canceled Star Talk.
Yeah, all right, canceled Star Talk with Neil and Neil and Joe. That sounds good.
We could trade Twitter death threats.
Oh yeah, he's probably got some real fun ones.
Probably got some good ones too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we might still have. I don't know if we still get any good ones, but
I do. Oh, yeah.
I get one or two that trickle in every year, but maybe they've gone to you directly now, which is good. Appreciate that.
Oh, thanks.
I'm kidding.
Thanks.
There was one where it was like half joking, and I was like.
Nah, there's no such thing as a half-joking death
I know.
threat.
And I'm like, yeah, you know, this is kind of shitty to do this, but anyway.
This is weird.
If you want to send it directly to him, you can send it here. So.
Yeah.
Like, this is fucking weird, but if you want to, you're yelling at air, you can send it to this, and then maybe you can talk
Sure.
Yeah, so anyway.
Send them all here.
Yeah, whatever. What's one more?
Yeah, I just add to the pile.
Yeah. Anyway, on that very light note,
I'm just going to forward it off to the FBI anyway. Don't think that, you know. Yeah, listen, you have to take them all seriously.
Right, I agree. Yeah.
You know, you gotta.
And then finally, First Wrestling. They ran Mall of America last weekend. I did not end up watching the show. I know Eric Cannon and Darren Corbin were in the opener. Darren Corbin, a long time. Yeah, he original guest on this very podcast. Yes. All 10 years ago, Darren Corbin went on here. He's obviously been in First Wrestling for a lot of time. He came out in the puffy white shirt that Lex Luger came out in his first Nitro appearance as well. But yeah, it was a cool little setup. I haven't watched the show yet. I know it's on Fight. I haven't heard feedback on the show itself, but it was a really cool setup. They were in the middle of Mall of America. It looked good. I know we had a few listeners that ended up going to the show. But yeah, it looked like a fun little environment, and it's always cool to get indie wrestling in some cool, interesting spaces and make it look good. And it definitely was a show that looked professional, looked good, had a nice look and feel to it. So
I'm surprised nobody thought of that until now.
Yeah, I can't believe that it took these guys, all those years ago, since 1995 to go back there. And I guess I don't know what it took for Mall of America to say, yeah, we're in, but hell, that's cool. So good for them.
And being in Minnesota at the Mall of America and everything, it would have been a crime if there wasn't a Darren Corbin versus Eric Cannon match on this show. So I'm glad that they booked that.
Yeah, and right out of the gate, too. That was the first match, too, which works. I mean, the First Wrestling's been around since, I think, 2007 or 2008, and these guys have been with it from the very beginning. I mean, these guys are the godfathers of the modern, Minnesota wrestling scene or whatever. So, yeah. It made sense that those dudes had to be wrestling on that show, and I love that they were at the
against
opener.
Each other.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's like the concept of an indie Hall of Fame. It just I never can take it seriously because it's so fragmented into different segments of the country and everything. And it's like Darren Corbin. He is Minnesota independent wrestling, and he has been, for like 2 decades now. And it's like in every region of the country, have guys like that, and even wrestlers who are even more obscure than that, who are just legitimate local draws and local stars on a local level. And and he's Minnesota, and Eric Cannon too. They're both Minnesota.
Sure.
And it makes sense that, and I'm glad that they wrestled each other. On that show. So, and there was a lot of AEW talent on the show. Orange Cassidy was on the show. I think Darius Martin was on the show, which is another guy from that area. Rob Van Dam was on the show, and the pictures looked really cool. They had a very nice setup for that. I saw someone saying that AEW should do that. I disagree. I don't know that they can draw the kind of gate that they need to draw. I mean, they have to sell tickets and make money when they do TV to cover the production and all of that. And the other thing is, I don't know if you really want to just cosplay WCW like that either. I know they're on the same network.
Yeah, there's a certain level of wink, wink, nudge, nudge that you should do, but maybe not to the fullest degree.
It's kind of like before Dynamite started, people were like, "Oh, the first match needs to be Brian Pillman Jr. versus Liger." No, like that's too on the nose. Like, are we going to be our own thing, or are we just going to be WCW 2? And I think that would have really sent the wrong message to come out of the gate like that.
I agree.
So, and again, and I think running like this venue, same kind of deal. I think it's a little too on the nose.
Yeah, it's too on the nose.
Now,
I like that they do find interesting venues, and I like they do on the ship and all that sort of stuff. And I think they should continue doing that sort of stuff. That stuff is cool, and that's kind of an homage.
Create your own legacies.
Yeah, and that's a bit of an homage to WCW, but you're creating your own legacy too by doing shows on a literal boat and doing that. So yeah.
So, but for an indie to do that, 25 years later, or is it 25 or is it? Yeah, 25 years later. It looked really great. The pictures that I saw, and and it looked like there was a lot of good talent on the show, and it was unique, and it got a lot of attention, and so it was. I think it was a very positive thing for independent wrestling in that area and independent wrestling as a whole, as opposed to just, another weekend of game changer shows where guys put each other through doors, and, it's something a little different. So it was cool. I didn't see it. It's on Fight, correct?
It is on Fight. Yeah. It's a Saturday night Nitro from First Wrestling. The I in First is a 1. So, but you can find it on Fight. If you just look at Saturday Night Nitro, you can be able to find it. voicesofwrestling.com /fight, by the way, if you're going to order that, use that link. Make sure. Yeah. All right, and that is it for us here on the Flagship. Of course, you want to subscribe to us at flagshippatreon.com for all of our bonus content. $5 tier, $10 tier gets you all of the content. voicesofwrestling.com as well. I mentioned the many previews up for a lot of the shows coming up this weekend. We'll have reviews of many of those shows as well. Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network. Make sure to subscribe and review us on your podcast app of choice. You can subscribe to the overall feed, Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network feed, or each show has an individual feed as well if you'd like to. But we always recommend the Voice of Wrestling Podcast Network feed because then you get all the shows and it helps all of us. But hey, you know what? Subscribe to both. That would actually help us out all a lot. So double download everything. That would be good. We would appreciate that. But that's it for us. So for Joe, I'm Rich. We'll talk to you next time on the Flagship Podcast. Take care.
Progressive presents Forced Metaphors about bundling your home and auto.
When you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, you get great savings and round-the-clock protection, which is as beautiful as looking your firstborn child in the eyes for the first time. Well, that's a bit much. Maybe it's more like looking your second-born child in the eyes for like the third or fourth time. Point being, the savings and round-the-clock protection are really, really magical.
Forced Metaphors. Presented by Progressive. Bundle and protect today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discount not available in all states or situations.